of people, and it was like the 80s, so it was like everybody had mustaches, like
Good
um
Tom Selleck mustaches.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like one time we had already dropped off um Sarah and Jordan and my brother and I on our way home. We saw someone with a mustache and we're like, oh my God, we have to tell Sarah tomorrow to log it in. And it's time for Gavin Doodle.
Hey, how y'all doing? Guess who it is? It's little old me. Why am I creepy at the beginning always? Hello, everybody. So I see our guest has already arrived, so they're gonna have to put up with me talking for just a second. But we are on for another Gavin Doodle. It's a Thursday night. I am very excited to talk to our guest tonight. Our guest is the one, the only Ruth Chan, who did this amazing graphic novel, Uprooted. Did a book, Hard Boiled Bugs for Breakfast, by one of my favorite authors growing up, Jack Pruletsky. I think that's how you say it. Who did a poem book that's akin to Where the Sidewalk Ends. That was called A New Kid on the Block, I think. Yeah. Something like that. That was amazing. We have other books here like The Great Indoors and Rick, Rock of Room 214. But the Uprooted is one of those, it's a sort of, what do I want to call it, graphic memoir? I don't know if that's right. It's an autobiographical sort of look into their move from the States to a foreign land and how they adjusted or didn't adjust. Ooh. And as someone who moved a couple of times when they were younger, some of this sort of hit home. Not that I was going overseas or anything of the sort, but just that idea of being a kid and having to adjust to a new environment, that it really sort of spoke to that. So I want to talk to Ruth about this tonight. Again, the stuff will go up on YouTube. I was a little bit delayed putting the last couple weeks up. I apologize for those that saw that, but let our guest in and we'll get going for the night. Okay, here we go. Accept invite. So here we go. This is the moment where I take a sip of water.
boom, connected.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm very excited to have you on.
I'm so excited. I wish I had a fancy velvet curtain behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so
way to rub it in.
Here's the secret. It's like drilled into my ceiling. It only goes down a certain distance, and then it's the rest of the basement. And behind
I
it,
love
it's
this like behind the scenes.
Behind it is kitty litter and other things. So if you go back and look at the early Gavin Doodles, you can see what's normally behind me. But I was like, I'm gonna go get some. And I looked for red velvet, and they didn't have enough. And I was like, they do have kind of mustardy gold velvet.
I like it.
It's extra 70s all of a sudden.
Yeah,
like 60s,
it's your
70s.
trademark look now.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a color. I don't know if it's the best color for my complexion, but we try.
It's too late to change now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I thought about at certain points of like getting different colors and periodically swapping it out.
Without saying anything, see if people notice.
And I even thought of like doing a separate curtain of different colored that I could pull a string like off to the side and it would open up and reveal the logo behind me. But it's a lot of work, and I don't.
High production value here.
Yeah, we try.
Huge. Huge.
So thank you for joining us tonight. Huge fan in the household, and I mentioned, I don't know if you heard me talking out front about sort of Uprooted and how as a child I moved to at least twice at an age where it was sort of awkward to make new friends. And that sort of experience of having to shift and not know what home is and missing your old friends and things of the sort. And so even though I didn't go international like you did, in the instance, it was, it really, some of the moments in there were sort of like hit home.
It's still
and so
hard.
Yeah, I read through this in one sitting. And normally I'm someone who like if it's dense enough like this, I was like, am I going to make it through this whole thing? And eventually I realized I was like close to the end. I'm like, I'm doing the whole thing in one shot. Uh, and so I was very thoroughly excited to read this. And so having you on is wonderful.
Oh,
Um,
thanks. It's always it's like so flattering, right? When people are like, I read it in 40 minutes, and then I was like, cool, because like it took me 5
yeah,
years to make. That's awesome.
it took me longer than
Haha.
40 minutes. It took me longer
Yeah.
than 40 minutes. But it
But
was,
thank you.
I
That
will
means a
say
lot.
it is a quick, engaging read. Like it's not one where, um, I don't mean quick in the like, yeah, it's quick in the sense that it's not like the dense text on every page or something of the sort. But it also like just visually you get some of the images so quickly that like there was an image of I forget his name who was out in the pool.
Yeah.
And I think you're looking out the window in the shot and you can see like a little splash in the pool or something like that. And
Yeah.
I like it was just
Matt.
enough that you're like, I got it. I don't need to see the details, and then like you get the moment, you sort of clearly see it and then move on.
Yeah.
And then I must say, I don't know, have you read Jack Pruletsky's other books? So do you know
Oh
the
yeah.
A New Kid on the Block?
Yeah.
All the poems? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like everybody talks about Shel Silverstein. I'm like, no, Jack Pruletsky.
Yeah.
He was,
I
he
know,
was my
right?
dude.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I don't know if he illustrated his, but he was the author, and so um, it was fun seeing that name on the top of the book there. So well, again, thank you. I'm very appreciative of you taking the
Thank you for
time
having me.
to jump on with us. So what we do normally up front, I will give a couple of heads ups. If internet goes down of some sort, we just keep going. My phone should upload it. I have a feed here that's about a 10-second delay, so I can look for comments and whatnot. But what I need you to do right up front for everybody that's watching and tuning in throughout the night, or looks at it after the fact on YouTube and whatnot, can you give people a little sense of who you are and what you do? I already showed some of this stuff, but like, give us your version.
Um, my name is Ruth Chan.
Yeah, you can
I
make up stuff
am
too if you want. You can say you can fly if you want.
I am an astronaut. No. Well, here. I'm a mother of a toddler, as you can tell.
Mhm.
um, I make children's books and comics, and I'm starting to write some other stuff. So I'm an author illustrator, also a surfer. I live in New York City right now, but
Yeah.
we last year, a month before I had the baby, we moved to the beach. So a lot of people don't know this, but there is
Oh yeah.
surf
Yeah.
in New York City. So we live like a 2, 3 minute walk from the beach so that we could surf more.
It's not
Uh,
huge waves, right? But it's. I know that
yeah, they're
people
not
surf off of
big.
like New York and New
I am
Jersey.
not that kind of
Yeah.
I'm not a good surfer, let's
Yeah.
just
You're
say.
you're shooting the barrel
Yeah.
constantly, and like I don't even know if
Oh
that's
yeah,
a
I'm
real
just
term.
ripping so hard. Yeah, no, no. I'm like knee high, just like little tiny. I just like being out in the ocean, and it's really nice. We see whales, we see dolphins, so it's nice. Like
Are
we
you
get to we get to go in the city when we want, but otherwise we're out here and we see the
do you
ocean every
do you
day.
surf during the winter at all?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I was like,
Everybody
how
tries
dedicated are
is trying to convince me, and I
you?
can't. I can't. It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah.
No.
I am afraid of water where I can't see what's underneath me. That
Fair.
freaks me out. And so like Caribbean, I would totally be like if there's, like Hawaii, those kind of places, I could probably see surfing. But like here in Boston or like New England, you go out like 3 feet in the water and all of a sudden it's murky
Oh yeah.
brown. And like
Yeah.
count me out. I'm not going out there. I know it's
Funnily,
probably safe, but
I went to college in around Boston, and I learned to scuba dive in Boston in like April. It was so
was
miserable. We couldn't see anything. All we saw were, no joke, like lobster and just like nothing. It
was
was
this in Boston
so murky.
Harbor? Like area?
No, it was, I can't even remember where we went. It was like somewhere north. It
Okay.
was so cold that they were like, just pee in your suits and you'll be warmer. And I was like, this is awful. This is
I know someone, yeah,
miserable.
who did some like scuba training, a relative who had the same thing where like they did it off the coast here, and like, no, I just like, if I'm
Yeah.
doing that, I'm gonna fly to a really lovely location
Yeah. Like,
to be able to enjoy.
yeah.
Um, so the I was gonna say also, I think it would be amazing, and I know that this wasn't what you intended, but when you panned over and you're like, I'm a mother of a toddler, I would love it if that's not actually true, and those are all your
Yeah.
toys in the
It's,
background, and it's
yeah.
just a real
It's
good
like,
excuse. You're
yeah.
like, yeah, this mother of a toddler. Well, I don't hear one, I don't see one, so
Yeah.
um,
Those are just, I just like playing with Crayola markers
yeah,
and some,
just
there
leave your
are
house a
tarot
mess.
cards there or something in there. So,
um, so tonight, obviously, we're gonna chat and draw, and I have questions for you. And it's meant to be a conversation. So if you have questions, if you don't like the conversation, you go, "This is boring." We can shift gears. All of it is fair game. My rule of thumb is that you're allowed to leave whenever you would like. I will not be offended. I've had people leave fairly early, and I've had people stay the entire time. I'm just sort of I cherish the fact that you are willing to put time into joining me on a Thursday evening, especially late, and on top of that, having a little one that I'm sure you have to get up frequently to manage. So any time that you can give, I appreciate it.
thank you.
Um,
No, I actually want to thank you because so seldom do I have time to just make art. Like I was sitting here like, what should I
yeah,
do? And I was
yeah,
like, oh, I should work on what I need to work on. I was like, no, wait, what if I just
draw.
work on, yeah, what if I
Yep.
just doodle?
I and
Literally.
I
It's
know what
such a
you're
gift.
thinking.
So thank
2 seconds before we started, I drew this little sketch of a kid putting a hamster in a race car, and like that's no intention, no plan. It's literally, these nights are like so lovely, and I hope that everybody enjoys it in the same way, but it's just a chance to sit down and draw and talk.
Yeah.
And like if I didn't have this, I don't know if I would dedicate time to the studio to go just play. And
Right.
so these are,
It's
I hope
such
that
a
this
great,
helps.
yeah.
Yeah. um so tell me a little bit, do you know what you're making tonight?
No,
Okay,
we're
good.
just gonna,
You're gonna wing it.
yeah, I'm just gonna wing
Okay,
it.
good. I
And
love
I'm
it.
not a winger, so we'll see.
I mean, do you want an idea? Because I can pitch an idea if you want.
Sure.
I, you know what I would love to see, because
Hmm.
I looking at a lot of the books and things that we have of yours. There's a how do I want to say this? Like they live in a world that is somewhat real, in the sense that like it's animals and things that we know, etc. And I want to see how far you can go beyond that, like go beyond the real, in some sense, like fantasy or sci-fi. Like what would an alien
Ooh.
world look like?
Ooh,
That kind of stuff.
okay.
I don't know what that
Right.
means, but
I like it.
that's the prompt I would give you. Um,
Okay.
and then the other question, my wife keeps track of this. She's on every night, and so if you see Mrs. Hoffy pop up and says something in the chat of some sort, that's her. But she keeps track of what people use for the night, and so I don't know enough. I mean, obviously, like I'm sure you use a variety of materials, but what are we using tonight? What are the
Tonight,
materials of choice?
I am returning to my beloved watercolors. So I have my cold press
Mm,
arches,
mm,
my
yeah,
very favorite. And I never really get to make books with it because it's just really hard to scan in. And I've got my Schminky watercolors that I made my first couple books with. My last few books I've been working on the iPad, which
yeah,
uh, has sort of deadened my soul, and I really miss working by hand. So, and especially the graphic novel, it's just like working on the
yeah.
iPad nonstop, which I do not regret, but I really miss working by hand. So I'm using ink, watercolor. Yeah,
Do you and you like the cold press over hot press?
I do. Yeah,
Because I mean, the cold press is going to be lumpier and harder to scan just in general. I didn't know.
yeah,
But Arches is the way I love Arches watercolor paper.
I
Like
love it.
it's
Yeah.
better in my mind than all the others. And I also must say, how do you say Schmidt? Schminky?
Schmink. I don't know if I
I
say it right.
don't know.
Schminke?
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I don't know. I took German once, but I don't know if it's even German. Is Schminke German?
I
No.
always say schminke, but I don't know if that's correct either.
I think it is Schminke. If
Yeah.
it's German, I don't know if it's German.
I
Somebody
don't know.
tell
Well,
us. I don't
yeah.
know.
If there's anybody watching from Germany, put in the comments somewhere
Yeah,
how
tell
you
us if
actually say
we're
it
right or wrong.
phonetically.
Just yeah.
It's if it's German, there's probably a little bit of like a gruff yelling tone.
Schminke.
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 Um, but and then tonight, are there? Because I know that you work or you worked in Procreate for some of those books. But one of the things that's come up recently that I've heard from a lot of folks is that there are people who have been doing digital for long enough now that they're starting to think otherwise. Like in other words, it's gone like they've done it for a series of books, or they're starting to play around with other materials. And I've heard a lot of people talk about just that same sort of sentiment of that they miss something from their like earlier times, whether it be traditional or whether it be some other like approach where someone's like, oh, I haven't played with oil paints in years. I hear a lot of people starting to talk about that, like, I want to go back. And
Yeah.
especially in the world of AI stuff now, I've heard a lot of folks saying, like, is that the new way to
Yeah.
avoid? I don't know as it is, but it's something wherein it's interesting to hear that coming from you as well, because I've heard it from quite a few folks recently.
Yeah. Yeah, the AI thing is like a whole other thing that is really, I mean, I think for now I'm fortunate where my style is very, like, I haven't really seen anything that's tried to
No.
copy my style, even though it is very cartoony. And usually, when I make picture books, even my latest picture books, I do an element. I always do an element by hand. So the line work is, either the
Yeah.
line work or shading or something is done by hand, and then I'll color digitally or something. Um, but yeah, I think it's really just from having made a graphic novel completely
Burnout.
digitally and yeah, just total burnout in my neck. Um, I mean, it's bad when you get to the point where I'm drawing with a pencil and I'm like trying to like
Double
tap with
tap.
two
Yeah.
fingers to undo. Like, oh no, that's
The
not okay.
the do you have a big iPad, or do you
I
have, because
do.
that
I have the big one.
I used to have a little one, and when I was doing some work on it, like sketches and stuff, the amount that I had to sit there and move it around to try to see things was just a nightmare. And I got the bigger one, and now it's so much easier to sketch
Yeah.
on that. But it's one of those things where, like, yeah, there's a disconnect. I used to work at an animation studio, and we worked on PCs there, and then at home I had a Mac, and I got really good at the key commands between the two of being able to
Ooh.
back and forth. And the Wacom tablets we had were different sizes, and so one of them I was using my fingers, another one I was using my whole arm, and I got
Oh,
really good at it. And
interesting.
now I'm not good at that at all. Where it's like I need to be in my pocket, or else it is a real struggle to
Yeah.
manage jumping all over the
Oh
place.
my God.
Um,
That's so
we
funny.
don't. I know that people are like, "Wow, we're talking about pains already of illustrating
Yeah.
before you even started."
Let's get
Um,
more technical.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me about your neck ache.
Yeah.
No. So why don't we do this? Why don't we switch to our downshoots?
Okay.
And I don't know if you've done a downshoot before. Have you done something like this before?
No, and my setup's really
Okay.
janky, so we're gonna make
Okay.
this work.
Okay. I will set up. I will keep an eye on yours to make sure it sets up okay. The main thing is keep it vertical like this. Tilt it down, and keep the screen up.
Wait, do I have to flip my
There's
camera then?
there's a
Yeah.
little circle
Okay, so
arrow thing.
flip
If
my
you,
camera. Okay.
yep, and
So
that
like
will make sure that it's not backwards for people.
so like
And
this.
yes, where are your hands? That's the only question I have. Uh, yeah, then you're good.
Okay.
I just have a shot of my ceiling for a little bit. So you can also, if you want to, you can pinch and zoom out
Oh my gosh.
on
Oh
your
no, mine's
screen.
already wait. How do you Oh, look at that.
So
Okay.
you can get a little wider if you want, depending on how you want to set up. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Oh, okay.
Um,
That's cool.
so as we set up and get started.
Nope.
Oh,
See? Hold on.
what? Did it just fall
I
down? I have the delayed view, so I didn't see if it.
yeah.
I'm gonna watch and see the
Don't
tragedy
worry
now.
about it.
Oh, I saw it. I,
You'll
I
probably
saw.
hear it too. Don't worry, I have some artist tape. I thought I had a whole setup and then I couldn't find it. So we're just gonna figure this out. I got
That's
this.
that's okay. When I first started out, my thing was a piece of wood with some like duct tape and a clamp,
I
and that's how I
I
started.
mean mine is literally balancing on my lamp.
You might
Okay,
want to
but
tape it just in case.
yeah, I just taped
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Look at
Good.
that. It's working.
It works. Yeah. As long
Look at
as it
that.
maintains the shot, you're good. Like I said, the I've
Okay.
upgraded
Yeah.
to a better ring setup, but I'm because of these going up on YouTube. I've thought about simulcasting between so it could be on both sites at the same time, and that's going to be a much more complicated rig to put up.
Oh yeah.
Um, so tell me a little bit, sort of. I know this is a generic question that probably every artist gets, but give us a little history for those that don't know the history of sort of your art, how you got into the arts, what age. I mean, obviously, like in the book, it talks a little bit about that um, in the back matter where you sort of talk about the real life situation. But can you give us a little hint as to the history?
Yeah. So my first foray into art was in this. So I grew up in Canada, and in the summers we were sort of like the latchkey kids. Like my brother and I would just kind of hang out at home while our parents worked.
Yeah,
And I just remember one time we were like, we got to make money, and so we sort of like mass produced these paintings that were really bad.
how old were
And
you?
we were like, I think I was like 7 or so, and we sort of just like went around knocking on our neighbors' doors being like, we'd like to sell our paintings, buy some. And I think our neighbors like felt really bad, but we didn't like price them very cheap. They were like $7 or something,
Yeah,
which in the 80s was like not nothing.
and
um
for a little kid piece of like you would think it would be like a quarter or a
Yeah,
dollar per.
exactly. We're like, and they were like not good. So I think we didn't sell that many. But anyway, but I was kind of like always really into art. Like I was kind of like the
Yeah,
art kid in elementary and high school. And I got really into like photography in high school. So um, if you have not read Uprooted, I moved to Hong Kong when I was 13. And and then when I was 16, I moved to Beijing and I went to international school. That, wow, it's really hard to like multitask. I, I'm just like, okay, surreal,
it
surreal, surreal.
it will get easier. Give it
Um,
like 20 minutes, and all of a sudden you're going to be talking and working, and you won't even think about it.
and so in Beijing, I got really into photography and was really wanted to be a National Geographic photojournalist.
Interesting.
Like
Okay.
that was my absolute goal in life. Like absolutely wanted to do that. And I even like interned at National Geographic and Time magazine. Like that was like what I was gonna do. Um and I did like a whole like photography thing in high school. And then I went to college and I wanted to like major in studio art. I went to Wellesley and my parents were like, absolutely not. Like, you're not going to college, like, to do art. You're going to study something else. Like, you can do a
Yeah.
double major. And I'm like, fine, I'll do psychology in art, So I did photography and then I did like developmental
Okay.
psychology, which is like, like
Kid.
child
Yeah.
development stuff.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I got really into this idea of like, oh, how, using the arts and child development, like how do they sort of intersect and stuff. And so I wanted to do like a graduate degree. So I went to grad school for arts and education. And so not art education, because there's a lot of art education programs, which is like how to be an art teacher and art
Yeah.
education. But this was like specifically like, how do you integrate the arts into everyday life, like for anybody, right?
Yeah,
Right.
not
So
just
like in
kids.
schools and museums and community centers, like how do you how do you help people realize how crucial art is as a part of anyone's life? You know, like creative, imaginative thinking, you know, like any sort of thing like that. So I went to Harvard for at the education school to do that. They
Oh,
have
okay.
like a whole program just for that, which is like
Yeah.
incredible. Um, and I loved it. But because I was like fresh out of undergrad, I don't feel like I got like the most out of it because I was like that cocky undergrad person, you know, that was like, I know everything. And I was like, no, I don't know anything. I have like no real world experience whatsoever. I don't know why they let me in. And then of course I got out and like couldn't get a job. So this is a really long story, but we got time.
No, this is good. I'm loving it. I'm like hearing. I mean, especially knowing these locations, like knowing Wesley or Wellesley. I said Wesley at first. Wellesley, and knowing Harvard and knowing like the type of environment those schools are. It's nice to sort of hear the behind the scenes
Yeah.
of sort of the experience of going through those schools and the expectation when you get out from those, because they're
Yeah.
both very prestigious schools.
Yeah.
Um, I
And
mean,
you know, like looking back, I'm like, I kind of love that, right? It was like a very real, like, like knocking the trachea. Like, no, you're not all that. Like, it's, yeah, you know, like, great. I love that. I love that I got a reality
yeah.
check. Um, and so I finally got a job at a bilingual Chinese and English preschool at the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center
Okay.
in Chinatown.
Yep.
And it was basically like my level of Chinese is like basically the same level as the children I was teaching. So it
This is
was
after living.
after living in Hong Kong, yeah,
Yeah.
because I like my Chinese was so it was like I was so embarrassed to speak in Hong Kong that I just like never really
Yeah.
I never really spoke it because I was like so embarrassed. Um, and so I taught there, and then I was dating someone. So then I ended up moving to DC, where I got a job at a school for students with special needs, but it was an arts-based school, which was
Oh,
really cool. Like
that's
you
cool.
could,
Yeah.
yeah, you could, it was everything was taught through the arts, like every single subject. And it was so cool. So I taught like fourth grade and kindergarten, and then taught the actual like art there for a little bit, which was really fun. Um,
There's a
and then
school that's in I want to say it's in Vermont. There's a college that I think is like directed towards students who have autism. That is, it has a art program that is the same thing, where it's like that's a really good device for
oh, so cool.
getting through to the students who wouldn't uh I don't want to say survive, but would struggle in a standard sort of like collegiate world. And so it's got that same vibe. So when you say that, that was my first thought. I was like, oh, that's almost exactly the same as I forget what it's called. I want to say it starts with an L.
Oh,
Whatever.
that's so cool. Like I love that they have
Yeah.
that now, you know? But yeah, it was like like basically this school was sort of like the school for all the kids that got kicked out of every other traditional school because they just couldn't really manage how those schools were structured, but
Yeah.
like they really flourished. And I mean, it was a tough school. Like we had a lot of chairs thrown at us
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, but like, you know,
You came home with
yeah,
bruises. Yeah. I know
it
someone
was,
that worked in a school like that, and they like the amount of like training you had to take down a kid.
oh my
Not
God,
not take
yeah,
down in like I'm gonna fight this kid, but to
like
take the
restraining.
kid down and restrain them so they don't hurt themselves.
Exactly. But in like a safe and legal way.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
I think you add the word
yeah,
legal in there.
exactly.
Cover
You
your bases.
have.
Cover your bases. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, anyway, I got burnt out teaching.
Yeah. Go from
As things go. This
chairs
is why we're both
being thrown
here.
at you might burn you out. Yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
Um, and so I kind of transitioned to like community-based nonprofit work, doing like youth programming stuff in DC, and then eventually in New York, which is when I moved here. And so I wasn't really doing like that much art stuff. I was like sort of like art adjacent, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and I kind of was like, had sort of like decided like, all right, well, I was like, it was a passion, but like, I guess I'm pretty good at like admin stuff, but that's kind you know, this is just kind of what I'm just gonna do, I guess. Um,
Did that did that hurt at all? Like,
I
you know,
don't,
understandably, you have to make decisions in your life to accommodate the world that you're in and sort of to survive. But
yeah,
did it
it's a good
feel
question.
like you were giving up on something in that moment, or was that just sort of a reality of like this is okay?
I think it was like the reality of like, that's okay. Like, you know, it was kind of like, I know why I go into work every day, helping people. I know that I'm like, you know, helping people, helping families.
Yeah.
I know that I have a skill set that works for it. That's fine. Um, and I've never really like thought that I'm like the most talented artist. You know, it's not like I didn't feel like I was like wasting my talent away, you
Okay.
know?
Gotcha.
And I never really had like formal training besides like photography anyway. Um, so anyway, throughout all this, I get married. I'm living in Brooklyn. Things are great, and then sort of like everything suddenly falls apart in a very like unexpected way.
Okay.
Where like my marriage kind of falls apart. I like lose my job. I have to
Oh,
move because my marriage has fallen apart and I don't have a job. And so it became one of those moments in life where you're like, oh, the like, you know, the linear trajectory that I had seen for
yeah.
myself is not going the way that I thought. So here's the time where I really need to reassess, like,
Yeah.
what do I really want to do with my life,
So
kind of
sort of
thing.
a forced reassessment, but a reassessment nonetheless. Yeah.
Exactly, right. Like looking back, you're like, wow, I'm so glad that happened. But you know, in that time, you're like, oh my God, this is the most painful
Yeah.
time of my life. This is awful, awful, awful. Um, And it was in that moment where I was like, man, yeah, I really miss art. I really miss doing art. I really miss like that connection, that like flow time, you know, that
Yeah.
when you're just like in it and doing it and um that that identity that I had in it even. Um and so and and like especially because I had been like in education for so long, I'd always really loved like picture books. And I think, and I've said this many times, I think they're like the most beautiful, um, like object, right? Like I think like to have this singular object that you can hold in your hand that encompasses like beautiful writing, like incredible, unique artwork that can make you cry or
Yeah.
laugh, that can like tell you these like human truths, or it can just be about like some silly thing, or it can be about both at the same time. Like I just think there's so much depth in such a concise object that can be shared among, you know,
Young
ages.
and
Like,
old. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just think it's like incredible.
I
It,
always go back to like thinking about how every one of us grew up. There's some book that we all remember from our childhood that's like
yeah,
this thing that is a cherished tome, and in reality is most likely not the best book in the world, but as a kid we have such a like love of that singular thing because of, you know, whether it be it was the moment that we spent with our parents, them reading to us, or it's the first time you read some words and got success,
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. That it's funny that just like a 300 word story can do that, but has such a long lasting effect on someone's life. So I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
no,
Go ahead. Go.
no, I mean, please interject at any time because I love that this is a conversation. Um, and I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, well, let
But
me.
yeah, I think that's so true. It's like, yeah, it's not really like the quality of the book even. It's just like the fact that these books become part of like a family history,
Yeah, yeah.
that even get like passed down is like incredible
Well,
to me. What is going on with this
what's
ink?
interesting is with the me teaching, I teach a children's book class, and I ask students to bring in like books from their past, or they tend to go home like during a break and bring home like, or bring back to school like, oh, this is one from when I was a kid. And most of the time I look at them, I'm like, how did you even put up with this artwork?
Right.
Or how did you put up with a story? And it's not that it's like the worst thing in the world, but as someone who is like in the arts, it's hard to ignore. Let's put it that way. It's hard to ignore if there's an aesthetic that I don't like.
Yes.
But there is some weird thing that when you're growing up as a little kid, that doesn't matter. And I do chalk it up to that idea of like, it's not about the book, it's about the moment the book was from,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
being sort of the star. And so like being in this industry, and I don't know if you have the same thing, but like maybe my goal is not to make a like the most perfect picture book in the world, but my goal is to make a book that some kid out there has in that same way, where they're like, well, hopefully not in a way where they think the artwork is bad, or someone thinks the artwork is bad later, but in a way where like it is as valuable to them as their teddy bear or their, whatever that thing may be. Um, so tell me real quick, going back into like, obviously you switched into picture books, but there had to be a decision at that point of like, it sounds to me, and I could be wrong, but did you know that you wanted to do picture books or had an interest in it prior enough that you had practiced it, or was it sort of just this leap of faith?
It was sort of a leap of faith into practicing it. So like in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a set amount of time to dedicate to exploring picture books, practicing illustrating, learning everything that I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
about the industry, about what makes a good picture book. Like I took classes at SVA. I like went to I mean, luckily I was in New York where there's just like so many events. I went to like every single story time.
Mm.
I read a bunch of picture books. I would like copy the text to see how it would flow. I like followed everyone on Twitter back when Twitter was like a good thing. Back when it was called
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Um,
There's I forget what site it is. I think it's Squarespace still listed as Twitter. They don't list it as
oh my
the
God,
the initial. Let's
good
put it that
for
way.
them. Oh my God.
Yes. No, were you a Books of Wonder person? Like, was
Yes.
that the store of choice?
Yes, I was there all the time. Yeah, yeah.
That's I have since I don't live in New York. I mean, I know of the store, and I don't. Since I've been in Kidlit, I have not been in New York. But when I go down there, of course, that's the store to go to, because it is just the like epicenter of book events in my mind, because I see so many things go through there. Um,
Yeah.
is there? Uh, let me ask, sort of, or historically going back, were you someone who had lots of picture books growing up? Because you said like to learn as much about picture books. Obviously, you have to learn the business, but did you have an understanding growing up about sort of like, you know, the well, I don't want to say like the ins and outs or the inner workings of picture books, but did you get any sense while you were going through school or in any experience to sort of know the basics and you just had to brush up, or was it like really oh God, I got to learn everything?
I think I had a good basis based on teaching, like just having taught pre-K and like being a teacher. I think growing up, like we spoke Chinese a lot at home, and so I don't remember being like read books a lot. I think I remember looking at books a lot myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I it's funny because for me, the books that I remember the most as a kid are the ones with the illustrations I remember. It's not the stories I remember, it's the illustrations. So like to me, Richard Scarry is like my absolute
Mm,
favorite,
yeah.
right? And it's like, oh, it's because I remember the pickle car, or like that I have to search for the pickle
Yep.
that's like on every page. And I think it's because I had to do like a lot of independent reading um as a kid. And so it's funny now because like now I have, my own toddler, and I'm just like shoving Richard Scarry down her throat, which she loves. She loves Richard
Yeah.
Scarry, thankfully. Um, but like I didn't, yeah, I don't, I mean, what were your favorite books growing
Uh,
up?
I mean, Richard Scarry. In particular, there's one story in Richard Scarry that always was my favorite, and I forget what the story is called, but it was one of the characters bakes some bread and loses their glasses or loses something. Maybe it was a watch or something like that, and it ends up that it fell into the dough and gets baked. But I just remember that story. Well, obviously I don't remember it perfectly, but I remember that was the one that like really stuck with me. And of course like Lowly Worm and things of that sort.
Yeah.
We my wife and I forget what Gavin Doodle it was where we talked about it at one point about, and I still would love to do this if it wasn't for copyright issue, to make a Little Richard Scarry book,
Oh my
where
God.
Little Richard in the style of Richard Scarry driving around in like some like a little Apple car or
Oh
whatever it
my
may be.
God, that would
Um,
be
I
incredible.
know it's so like such a stupid funny idea that I want to do it at some point. I just don't know when,
Oh,
or how to do
so
it. But the other one that I have, and this one I know is like not a PC thing anymore. Let's put it that way. But was I think it was based on a Chinese folklore. Was the Five Chinese
oh,
Brothers?
oh yeah, I remember that.
But it
Yeah.
is a book that aesthetically would not be printed today.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
it's too
lots of
bad.
challenges with it, and
Yeah.
but it was one of those books that like growing up I remember that story because of how wild and like farcical the things they went through were. And it's obviously like if it's based on a folklore or things of the sort, like that's great, but it aesthetically for anybody that knows it, there's a lot of stereotyping. Well, I don't know if it's technically, I don't know, I'm not sure where it falls in that, but I know that it's not a book that I would pull out in public. At least the version that I had. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
little
I remember that book.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there were other ones that were like, I mean, obviously Eric Carle stuff. Everybody loves Eric Carle stuff, so that's easy enough. But I'm trying to think if there was other ones that like, um, I did have, and I've shown it on here a couple of times. I did have a Sesame Street book wherein it was one of those ones in the back of a magazine where you write in and they would put your information in.
Ooh. Ooh.
And my great aunt and uncle did that for me, and so
Oh
I
my
have
God.
one that talks about me, like or like all the Sesame Street characters are talking about me in it, and so
Oh my
like
God.
that is something that's still here on the shelf that I
That is
cherish.
so epic.
I don't. I mean, there's companies that do it now, but I don't think there's a Sesame
Yeah.
Street one, and it's clearly like typed in with a typewriter, and so
Do
it's
you remember receiving that as a kid?
I I don't remember getting it. I remember as a kid reading it, but I can't
Mm,
remember the moment that I got it. But I do know
mm,
that it was like it was groundbreaking to me as a kid to see my name in a book. And
yeah.
now I look back at it and it's just like, oh, it's just a mail order thing that they
Right.
did.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
but it's still pretty rad. Like it still had Mr. Hooper in
Oh my
it. That
God. Oh.
when it's sitting on a shelf over here, and I'll hold on to that one till the end of time.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
I wish
That's amazing.
I wish you could still get those books, like at least the Sesame Street ones or like famous ones like that,
Yeah.
in a way. But I just don't think they do it anymore.
No, now they just have those like really bad
Yeah,
ones.
where it's you'll be in the style of The Simpsons
Yeah.
or you'll be in the style of this.
Yeah.
It's all
But
AI probably
yeah.
at this point. Um,
Exactly.
Did you have books? I mean, obviously, like by the time that you went over to Hong Kong, you were out of that phase, I assume, of like picture books.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I actually have like a lot of them. Wait, let me. I went back to Toronto and found a bunch that my parents still have. I found this one that, wait, is it? Yeah, that my daughter has been obsessed with. She's 13 months, so I don't know. But it's like from the 70s. I mean, I was born in 1980, so this is 1979. And it's like, and I remember these books that I loved. Like, we had a lot of like nonfiction fact books, like those.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so funny because
Yeah.
there's this one page that's like the tallest buildings in the world, and it's like the World Trade Towers, which is like oof.
Yeah.
And then like the longest bridge was the Verrazano, which is like in New York City. I'm like, that was the longest bridge? What?
At the time.
At the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's just like, and then I'm like, who painted this very like Norman Rockwell-y like style like hand painted? It's kind of like gorgeous.
It's
And so,
there's some really good, like we have a couple of books like that because we collect some old like vintage books where it is just like informational like that.
yeah.
That artwork is amazing, but I
Yeah,
don't think it gets the credit because it was not like a narrative story.
exactly.
And
Yeah, I mean, look at these. They're so good.
well,
Um,
even there was the jet on the one page, and I'm like, the
oh
jet
my
was so cool,
God.
so
Yeah.
80s, like you're gonna be a military hero jet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like the Concorde, the supersonic transport.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I
Yeah,
like I like that you said your daughter, who is, you said 18 months, 13 months,
13.
is obsessed with that.
Yeah, it's like her favorite book. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's cool. I love that, Like I have so many picture books that she could choose from. I always put like mine in front of her. No, no, no. She just wants like that book.
Have
But
you have you
yeah.
done any books that are specifically for that age range at all, like board books or anything?
I haven't, but like now I want to, right?
Yeah.
Because I never really like honestly never really thought about board books much until I had a kid, and now I'm like, board books are amazing. They're brilliant. And I just bought John Klassen's three
Oh, the
new
new
ones.
ones?
Oh
I
my
haven't seen
God.
those yet.
They're
Are those good?
beautiful.
I mean, they're John
Yes.
Clausen, so of course they're good.
They're
But
they're so beautiful. And I went to see he did an event in New York City, and essentially he's building a safe world for your child to say goodnight to, like
oh,
each book. And it's just like, oh God, John, why you got it's so good. And it's just like like picture books already, you're working with such concise language,
yeah.
which I love. And then with board books, you're paring it down even more, right? So I just think it's like it's such a beautiful craft to make a board
Did
book. So
did you
no.
read his article in the New York Times about board
Yes.
books? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like I have my first. I'm waiting to hear back officially, but um, first offer on some board books, uh, which is
Ooh.
which is fun because I've never done like I've had a book turned into a board book, but that's post working on the book,
Right.
and so to me that's still the exact same.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like, and I don't know if you have the same sentiment, and maybe this is what you were hinting at, but that idea of like starting out in this industry, I tend to look over them as just sort of like, oh, that's the thing that holds them over until they get to picture books, or
Yeah, yeah,
or
exactly.
they were or they were like a because they tend to be quick, um, not necessarily just production, but like they're on the shelf, they sell for a little bit. If they don't sell, then they just do a new one, and there's not the longevity that there are with some of the books, except for
Yeah,
a few folks like Sandra Boynton,
right,
of course, going to have tons of them for the end of
right,
time.
right.
But when you actually go look at some of them, especially when it's like artists that you really love, all of a sudden they start to like you're like, oh man, these are really cool, and like they should get more credit than
Yeah.
what they do um, in bookstores or around. So I'm not saying that you should do one, but I think especially having a little one who's in that age range, you get an appreciation for them that you
Yeah.
normally have as an adult.
How
Plus,
how
they can get
how was
slobbered on.
the process of making a dummy for one different
Oh,
to
I haven't
you?
I haven't done the dummy yet. I had to do sample
Oh.
art for them. Like they said they'd pay for the sample art just to make sure it's in style
Oh,
with
okay.
what they want. And so I'm just waiting. The contract has been sent. They need to just approve, which I sent the other
Ooh.
day. But assuming that they approve, then we're good to go on a couple of them.
Oh my
But these are ones that
gosh.
have like functionality. So like you can move stuff on the page.
Oh my
So it's got
gosh.
like an inner
That's
layer
so
and stuff,
fun.
and that's kind of interesting just to figure out sort of how logistically to make all of that work.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also like I look at my shelf and you have those I don't know if they're IKEA, but it looks like those same like
Oh yeah.
square box shelves back there that are great for picture books.
Yep.
I look at my shelves over here and I have, hundreds of picture books. I have like 3 or 4 board books in the
Yeah.
collection. And like that does need to change at some point. That I need to start when I go to stores or I go to events, like I need to actually buy into the board books because they're just as good.
Yeah. I know. I we have so many now, and I feel like very dear about them. Where it's like I'm like, oh, be careful when you read those board books now, daughter.
Yeah,
Like, you know.
please don't
I'm like,
chew
no,
on
no,
them.
no. She's meant to like bash them around.
Yeah.
That's why they're board books.
Well, you can. I mean, I don't. They're not that much cheaper, but there's part of me that when I bought books for my son, there were certain books that I'd buy that were just for me, and like yes, I
Ooh.
would read them to him, but he didn't get to hold. Uh,
Yeah.
and there's books that were meant for him that were maybe the less exciting ones to me, or there were the gifts from people that showed
Oh
up
yeah.
that
The
became
ones that are gifts, I'm like,
yeah
go for it, girl.
yeah.
You can read them while you're eating. I don't care.
I mean, there's even those books where they're like the fabric books,
Oh
where like
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
got like 4 pages and they're all fabric,
Yeah.
and like those are still someone. Again, it's one of those things where like I think I have a new appreciation in a way. Um, now that I've got a contract, let's put it that way, I have a new appreciation for for board books, or for books that are not the traditional sort of picture book. Um, and I mean, I know lots of folks that work in that sort of world, anyways. But it's there are so many cool things that happen with them, and especially like package publishers and whatnot that do some really interesting things that I need to go back and look more. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, is there? I mean, if your daughter is 18, no, 13 months.
13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if your daughter's 18. What?
She's 18.
Yeah.
Uh,
But is there a certain thing that like when you show books that she gravitates towards, like certain color like combinations or certain styles of books? Like, have you noticed that side of
she
it?
is super into detailed books, like on like Richard Scarry books, or like I have a Seek and Find book that I illustrated, and she loves them. Like she loves looking. I don't know if this is like normal for her age or that she's just kind of weird, like but she just loves like I'm like, look for the panda. And she'll just sit there for like 5 minutes looking for the panda.
That's
Or she loves like I think it's because she's like getting it at the age where she's like really proud of recognizing
yeah.
things. So like, and for Richard Scarry, there's like, the supermarket scene, and she'll be like, Apple, it's like so exciting. So she's not really into like narrative story arc
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
She's really into just like she's super into details. It's really interesting.
I
And I'm like, I can't tell if that's like her personality or just a phase. It's really it's funny when you have a kid and they're young because you're just like trying not to like 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 how much am I imposing on her like what I want
Yeah,
versus just like allowing her to just be who she is.
that's. I mean, even like I have a 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old, and it still has that sort of challenge of. And I know this is probably not the statement that I should be saying, but like we go to a bookstore and it's clearly I'm buying books for me and my wife's buying books for her, and then I say, okay, you can go get whatever you want, and most of the time he gets books that I'm like cool with, and there's
Yeah.
not an issue there. But every once in a while, I'll look at a book that he gets, and I'm like, it's just not my thing. And
Yeah.
I wanna get in there and be like, oh, isn't this book cooler over here?
Yeah.
Look at this one. But I know that that's not the goal here. It's I want him to be happy with whatever he has
Yeah.
or the artist he likes or whatnot, and not be because I even worry just even on the teaching side, like all the books that I get, and I bring them into class, and I'm like, oh, here's an example of someone who did a really great page layout or something of the sort, and then the students look at them and go, this looks like all the other ones. Like you have an aesthetic that you buy.
Mm.
And so I've been trying to like venture outside of that, not necessarily to books that I don't particularly like, but venture out into a like, okay, I'm going to buy a book that's not the standard aesthetic. Like
Right.
as a great example, like Beatrice
Oh yeah. Alan Rush.
or Isabel Arsenault, beautiful books.
Yeah.
But then you go look at something that's a totally different aesthetic. In the past I'd be like, well, maybe I just love those like Arsenault books and I'll buy every single one of them that comes out.
Yeah.
And so now I have to like force my hand to be like, oh, there's other books on the shelf that I need to give time to and sort of love.
Right. Right.
But it does take a little effort because I just gravitate to a style or a texture that I like or whatever's in
Oh,
those books. It's
absolutely.
me being the 13-month-old who goes,
Yeah.
this is the thing that I like and I can look at it forever.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
do you, since having your daughter has like, because you've been illustrating prior to that, obviously you didn't just start doing kids books 13 months ago.
Yeah.
Um, but has your perception changed of like what makes a good book after seeing the reaction or the interaction with your daughter?
I don't I keep trying to like think like figure that out and I'm like, you know what? I think that I she's too young for me to figure that out right now because I'm like, ooh, short, like less words, fewer words, fewer words.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, no, she's not. She's just like not quite at the age yet where I can like fairly
Yeah.
say that.
The
Where
assessment
we're
level
like
is not
barely
great.
reading the words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Um.
know if it's just that she has some gas and she's smiling, or
Yeah.
uh, if it's something else.
Yeah.
Uh, like you really
Well.
love this book that has lots of flow charts and
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
you like this tax form I have. She's really into tax
Wow.
forms.
She's gonna be an accountant.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's gonna have a real salary here. Yeah.
um, it's well, actually, speaking of that, I've said this on here many a times, but like, I don't think my son's going to be an artist proper. He might be an engineer who uses CAD or something of the sort, but I'm kind of glad that he is not aiming towards art. Not because it's like the worst job in the world, but just I know the struggles,
Yeah.
and and I look at it and I go, oh, okay, there's other paths, and it'd be cool if you decided to go a different direction, maybe.
Yeah. My husband and I say that too because he's also an artist and we're like, yeah, we're just like we're not gonna pay for her to go to art school. Uh,
do
like
Does she like to make? I mean, obviously she's 13 months, so it's not like the most complex thing. But does she like to play with materials, like art materials?
she just figured out how to finger paint
Okay.
and she's like pretty into it. She hasn't really figured out crayons or markers yet because she doesn't quite get like that you have to press down on things.
Oh, okay.
But she did figure out the iPad like 2 days ago, and she's like,
Oh, yeah, that's
ooh.
dangerous.
Yeah. But funnily, she wasn't really into like, she was really into writing letters. So she knows like a couple letters. And so she really wanted to make like the letter X and O more than anything else. And I'm like, all
Oh,
right, well, maybe you're gonna be a writer,
hugs and kisses.
which is
That's
not that much better than an
yeah,
artist,
yeah.
like a visual artist, but okay.
She's going into dance.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. We're like, oh God, what if she wants to be like a musician? Oh God, we're
Mhm.
like doomed. It's so hard.
And it's not.
Or an actor.
Yeah,
Oh God,
it's
yeah.
not like it's a bad profession
No.
as a profession,
Yeah,
but it is a challenging profession when it comes to
exactly.
career
Yeah,
career longevity and career choices and things of the sort.
exactly.
Um,
We're like, she's gonna either want to be like an actor or like a figure skater, and we're gonna have to like wake up at like 4 in the morning.
you'll, you just got to put the right books in front of her now. So start aiming towards those things where it's like, oh, here is a book on how to get your master's in business
Yeah,
administration. Just
exactly.
don't give her access to things that seem fun. Uh,
Yeah.
ruin her childhood just so you don't have to put up with driving
Yeah.
her to practice.
Can you make a couple board books about being an
Yeah,
accountant? And that'd be great.
my daddy's a tax collector.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there I mean, one of the things that I found, and I don't know if this will be the same for you, but one of the things that I thought was interesting is I started in the kidlit world right around when my son was born. He was maybe 1 when I was starting my first book. And it's interesting to see how my perception of what I want in a kid's book changes or changed for a long time because of watching him grow up with
Mm.
books. Now he's surpassed that. And so now, like, doing a board book, I'm not like, oh, he's 11, I have to do books only for 11-year-olds. Like, I'm not aiming towards that anymore. But there was a time where it was like, oh, he really loves these books that have this certain kind of content or have
Mm.
a certain amount of words or things of the sort. And that did sort of influence my perception of what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's not like it was consistent or what do I want to say? Like, it was not a very clear thing that just stayed with. It was something that changed depending on the day
Oh,
and sort
interesting.
of what was around them. But it'd be interesting to see, like, as you go along, especially because you've been in this industry and you've done stuff for an older audience prior to having your daughter. Like,
Yeah.
are you gonna have this like uh, age regression in the aesthetic of books that you
Yeah. I
uh,
know. That's a really good. Yeah. I
yeah,
wonder.
who
I
knows?
mean, yeah. I'm already wondering. I'm just like, okay, she's like obsessed with panda. So I'm like, how do I make a panda book
Yep,
that's
yep.
not like that's not like some weird cultural appropriational like
Yeah.
how do I do it? How do I do it? How do I do it?
Or it's like the real panda that's there that everybody goes, oh, just make a book about that
Yeah,
one. Uh,
exactly.
yeah, you got to find your niche of how to put it in there that it's
Yeah.
like it's a book about contrast and a panda that hides in the shadows and in the light. You got to find that sort of solution.
Yeah.
Um, is there as you've been working, obviously, like doing the uprooted, that's for a audience that is older, but have you had young ones read? Like, have you had anybody that's read that to their kid?
Yeah, I actually had someone just message me on Instagram yesterday saying that it's their 4-year-old's favorite bedtime story. And I was like, whoa! I was like, congrats. That's incredible. I don't know what to say to that.
You don't know why they're like
That's
that.
intense.
That kid's
Yeah.
gone through some
Yeah.
stuff, has already seen things that
Just seeing things,
yeah,
exactly.
kid's been around for a while
Yeah.
and has
I'm like,
learned the
that is
ways of the world.
one hardened child. I mean, it's a pretty mild book, but
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And also, I'm just like, how do you read a graphic novel as a bedtime story? Like,
Oh,
kudos to you, Mom.
I have
That's,
that we have tried that, and maybe you'll hit this point too at some point. But I have tried that, and it's very awkward because you have to like point to who's saying what,
yeah,
and it's
exactly.
sort of like, okay, how do I convey that this is the person that's saying this little snippet, and then the next person is saying this, and so it's a lot of pointing or adding
Yeah,
so and so said.
yeah.
The kid doesn't understand
And,
the
right.
actual language at the time. Is there with your books with your daughter? Obviously, you had mentioned the idea of like there's some that sort of connect on a level. Have you had a complete rejection of like throwing the book away? Like, here's one that mommy made, and then all of a sudden it's just thrown on the floor because she wants no part of it? Or is she
Yeah.
respectful and careful with your books?
Oh God, no. I don't think she's ever read. She's only looked at one of my books, the One Seek and Find book, and
Yeah.
every other one she has not read. And like I've tried I've tried like trying to get um her, I'm like, oh, she loves pandas. So I'm like, okay, this book has pandas in it. So I'm like, look, there's pandas in this one. And she just, and you know how like toddlers do this thing where they love tossing things
Mm-hmm.
and they do it in a way that's like very hurtful to adults if you're feeling a little bit sensitive. Like they really have a good
Just
fling.
out of spite.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just really like know how to do it. And so she like flings my books really hard. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Um, but it's
It's
all good.
no hugs for you tonight.
Yeah,
You can have some revenge if you need. You don't have
yeah.
to let that go by without
I
some
don't need to
consequence.
change your diaper tonight. That's fine.
You disrespect your mother, and you're going to find out that that is not a good thing.
Yeah,
Um, the
teach him early.
Yeah, I like how I'm just talking about like totally being mean to your daughter,
Yeah,
or we're both giggling about it. Like, how this is
yeah. Late
hilarious.
night talks.
What's the funniest thing in the world is when people mess with their kids. Um, and then so going back to the book side of things, obviously, like we can go off on subjects wherever we want to go. Man, my feed is blurry. Hopefully, it corrects itself here. Um, but going back to the book side of things, so you have done picture books. You've done this graphic novel, and you said the graphic novel was challenging, just partially, I assume, because of the length, that the longevity of
Yeah.
diving into something like that. Were there other things that you found challenging in the mix when working on something like that?
I think like because the nature of it being memoir, there were like you know, there are a couple challenges with that. Like, I think one of the first concerns I had was like, oh, everybody in the book is like an actual
Mm.
person. Like, what are they gonna think about seeing themselves in the book?
I mean, you
Um,
disrespected them all, right?
yeah, I mean, it's just they're
Every
all terrible people in it. So,
everybody's fat. Just make
yeah.
everybody fat.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
Well, it's so funny because like my best friend in the book, who is still like one of my closest friends, Bonnie, she is like chubby in the book because she was chubby
Yeah.
back then. And she's like, why'd you draw me like that? And my other friend, Claudia, who's also in the book, we're all still like very close. We're just like, Bonnie, it's because you looked like that back then. And she's like, yeah, but you couldn't make me look better. And we're like, no, because like it's real life, dude. This is like, and you wore Reebok pumps, which by the way are cool again. Um, and
Wait. Okay, what kind of Reebok pumps though? Because there were different ones. There were some that were cooler than others.
oh my God, well, I don't think these were like the coolest of them all.
There was like, if you had a basketball one, you were probably
Yeah,
cool.
no, they were the basketball ones.
Oh,
I remember that.
see,
Yes, but they were,
I had
yeah.
tennis ball ones.
Oh,
Not as
oh.
cool. You don't get a lot of
I
street cred with
yeah.
tennis ball.
I remember that. I totally forgot that there were like different levels of cool.
Yeah.
And then there were like fake ones, I remember. Oh, the
The
tennis
yeah.
ball ones.
I mean, at the time, I liked to play tennis, or I was attempting to play tennis. So it's not like it was out of nowhere, but
I was a tennis player
yeah.
too.
But it
Uh,
definitely was not the same as having basketball. Um,
hers were
well,
basketball ones, but they were like pink, like bright pink,
whoa.
which,
Wait,
yeah,
the shoe or the pump?
the pump. They were white
Oh.
with pink pumps, which is
I feel like now we're saying pump really hard here, but
pump. Yeah.
oh.
Anyone who logs on right now is going to be real confused.
She had a pink pump. Just throw that in the mix. No, those shoes, man, that brings back memories. That brings back my middle school.
Right.
Pretty hard right there.
Right.
I don't even know what year that was, but must have been like, what? I think you're like a few years younger than me, but it would have been, around the same time, like early 90s.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that
It
range.
was 93 for us. 90, yeah, 93.
Yeah, I think it would have been like 90 to 91.
Yeah.
Or something like that for me was that era of
Good
wearing.
times.
Wait. Okay, so going on fashion for a hot second here. Wait, you grew up in Canada, right?
Grew up in
Through some of
Canada.
that, but then Hong Kong. Were you of the era where like Vaurnet,
Oh my God. Yes.
Ocean Pacific,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then I don't know, but especially because Canada, I grew up in Minnesota, and so thinking of like some of the era even, um, it was close enough to Canada that there were probably some. Do you remember Girbaud jeans?
Oh my God. Wait. I completely forgot about those.
With
Yes.
the little red tag on the zipper or on the
Yes.
fly?
Yes.
I feel like not everybody knew about those, but that was definitely like the hot ticket in Minnesota at one point.
I completely forgot about those.
Well, if I can find
Your
them here, we can
bow.
send you some. But I just remember they were very expensive, and everybody wanted them. And
Yeah.
my parents,
I never
like,
had them.
you can have one pair of Girbaud jeans, or you can have like 3 pairs of Levi's. What do you want? And there was a
Yeah.
year where I was like, I just want those Girbaud jeans because they were cool. I had to make up for the fact that I had tennis pumps to survive middle
You gotta have
school.
one thing right,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh man, I totally forgot. I remember Varney was so cool, and I really wanted a shirt, but they were like kind of expensive.
Yep.
Like they weren't like super expensive, but they were like too expensive for us. We weren't like well off.
We
And I remember because it was like I grew up in Ottawa, and so it was like a bilingual city, and so like all the French Canadians had them. And I had like a huge crush on Matthew Vayette,
oh,
who's a
your name.
French Canadian. And he had all the Varney shirts, and he had one that was like fluorescent. It was white with fluorescent green Varney logo, and I was like, that is so cool, so cool. And if I get a Varney shirt, maybe he'll notice me.
Yeah, yeah.
I never got one,
We got
but
them at an
you
outlet,
know,
and so that ended
ooh,
up with our
smart.
Barney and Ocean Pacific was an
Ugh,
outlet. Um,
so cool.
yeah, it
Mm.
was. I had so much. I had people just coming up to me constantly going, "Let me see that Varney shirt and those Girbaud jeans." And while I'm at it, I'll try not to look at your tennis pumps. Um, did you?
You should just Sharpie some basketball lines. Yeah. Our
Why is your
illustration
basketball fuzzy?
skills got to come in handy somehow.
I do remember the tennis ball one was a tennis ball texture, like it had the fuzz.
It had the fuzz. I
Yeah,
remember that.
I just.
Yeah, that's
Oh man.
true.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. That was a walk down memory lane for a second.
Well, what's funny is that there's actually a Varney shop in Soho here in New York City now because it's like cool again.
And have
It's
you been?
I mean, I did. I wanted to get a t-shirt, but it's like $65. And I was like, is that worth it to fulfill a childhood dream, but now that we're talking about it, I'm like, maybe it is.
You could probably
Like,
go on eBay and get an original from
true.
era.
I could
Um,
probably get the white with the fluorescent green that I really wanted.
we had, I don't know if you were of the same ballpark too, but we used to have a time wherein we would all get sweatshirts for colleges that have like, it would be like uh, Penn State or something, and it would be all fluorescent colors on the sweatshirt.
I
And
remember that phase, but I was never part of that.
oh,
I
but
think it was a very American thing.
it might have been. The funny thing about it is, like, I had no connection to any of the schools, but I would buy these shirts just because they were like, it looked cool with your biker shorts
Oh my
with the
God.
fluorescent right down
Yeah,
the
the
thigh,
biker shorts with the fluorescent
or
sides,
Zubas.
the panels.
It would go with
Yeah.
Zubas well. You know
Or your
Zubas, right?
Umbro shorts.
Yeah, Umbro shorts. Ooh,
Yeah.
this is hitting
Oh,
all the
I
core.
know.
Um, Umbro shorts. I remember that was big. You didn't have to
Yeah,
like soccer, but boy, if you got a pair of Umbro shorts, those
I
were big.
know. They were cool. They were really, I mean, there was like no stretch in them whatsoever.
The
But
one of the like I remember the 8 ball jacket era, but do you remember
oh
starter
my God. Remember what? A starter? Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you know Chad Beckerman, um,
Yes, I do.
the art director. Do you know what his dad did?
No?
He was a bigwig at starter jackets.
No
Yep.
way.
Uh,
Really?
oh yeah. That's his family heritage is starter jackets, and I don't think I ever saw him wearing starter jackets when I went to school with him, because we went to school at RISD at the same time.
Oh my
But I know that
God, Chad has never told me that
you
ever.
have to you have to ask him, or like show up in a starter jacket one day and be like, check out my new jacket, isn't it cool? And just throw it in. Do you know him well?
I do. I wish Chad was watching right now.
I
Is
don't.
he? I don't think he is.
I doubt it. He he tunes in every once in a while, but I don't know if he tunes in.
Darn it, Chad.
Uh,
Next time I bumped into him.
yeah, just ask. I'm pretty sure it's starter jackets. It would be even cooler if it was 8 ball jackets, but
I
I'm pretty
mean,
sure it's starter
yeah.
jackets.
I remember it was very cool to wear, was it the LA Kings? Well,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, what was it?
I thought you were gonna say LA Gear, which is a whole nother one.
No, it was like a team that does not exist anymore.
Was it black and
I can't.
white?
Yes.
It probably was the LA Kings then, because
Yeah.
I remember the LA King gear of
I
sorts.
remember it was like very cool to wear that particular team. I don't know
Okay,
why.
so speaking on this, like going back to for those that are tuning in for book talk, man, my feed is still blurry. I
Oh
wonder
yeah,
what's going on there.
yeah. Is mine?
No, yours
Let
seems
me
to be
see.
fine. It's mine, so hopefully mine
Oh
will kick
yeah.
in a second. If it does not, it's something to do with the upload on my end, I think. But if it doesn't kick in a little bit, we can actually pause, do a load this, and come back, a few minutes later, and it should refresh itself. But I'll give it a
Okay.
minute or two, and we'll see.
All right.
Um, shoot, what was I going to say? What was I talking about? Oh, I was going to say, so you moved to Hong Kong, and then you moved to Beijing. Was there fashion issues there as far as like,
Um.
what was cool, what was hip? Or were you just straight
Yes.
up unhip the whole time?
I.
Sorry, I just threw you under the bus as
Yeah.
a joke. Um,
No, it was. Well, I went there and I remember like feeling very cool. I had like an oversized Disney store shirt. It was like a denim Disney store shirt and the pocket had like I don't know, I forget which Disney. I was like Winnie the Pooh peeking out and I was like I thought that was cool as a 13-year-old and then very soon I was like, "Oh God, oh no. No, no, that's not cool as a 13-year-old. That's not cool." And then I was like, "Oh, everyone's like into the skater thing." So then I very quickly pivoted to being into dressing like a skater, which I recently found the shirts like Alien Workshop shirts, and I started wearing them again because they're really comfortable and
Wait, how
oversized.
old were you at the time when you were wearing the Alien Workshop? I'm just wondering, like,
13.
13.
Yeah.
So that was what, 93? I guess that makes sense.
93, yeah.
I was trying to do
Yeah.
the math of like when would Alien Workshop, like when did they start? Because for me that it felt like it was a different time frame, but 93 probably actually makes sense.
I mean, I don't know because I feel like maybe we were a little bit behind in Hong Kong. Like I feel like everything was like I always feel like I always say I had this like pop culture like black hole during the mid to late 90s because I was living in Hong Kong and China
Yeah.
where I like missed out on a lot of like TV
Oh,
shows and like we had like we had Friends and we had ER. Like we got like some good stuff, but we didn't get all of it. And like a lot of music was like very curated that came over. So I feel like I missed like a
I
lot.
like the idea that like the ER that you got was all the ones that didn't feature George Clooney. And, you know,
Yeah.
it was sort of the lesser than the
Yeah.
B
I'm
version.
like,
Yeah,
what handsome guy.
George who?
Anthony Edwards? I
Yeah,
guess he's okay.
he was great in Revenge of the Nerds, but
Yeah.
the the what was I gonna say? Oh, when I went over to China, what I thought was interesting, like we went to Beijing for a thing for my school, me and the dean at the time, and it was fascinating. The area that we stayed in, we went down. I forget. It must have been some major shopping district, but they had all the major fashion labels. And what I found fascinating was they were so cheap
Oh
compared to
yeah.
the states because of, you didn't have the import taxes and you didn't have all the things that went with it. And so
Yeah.
we'd go, and not that I had any interest in wearing any of them, but it was really fascinating to like
But you
to be walking down and there's
could.
a Christian Dior store and there's a what, like just all these stores that you would think would be like, I mean, they weren't cheap, let's put it that way, but there definitely was
Cheaper.
something that you could afford if you really wanted one. And there was a big fashion scene there, which I just found out.
Yeah.
Um,
It's huge.
Now, yeah, I came home. I wasn't wearing all those things. That was not my
Darn.
cup of tea. Let's put it that way. It'd be amazing if I came home and all of a sudden I'm wearing like, yeah, all this high end fashion, which
Yeah,
really don't.
it's like your thing now. Yeah.
And that's the only way that I get it is if I go overseas. But shoot, what were we talking about? Okay, my feed is so blurry right now that what I'm gonna do is
Should we
that's
redo?
that's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish cutting these feet out to make sure that they fit on the rug that I need. And once I get that done, what I'll do is I will stop the feed. For those that want to continue watching, all they have to do is just wait about 2 minutes while I upload what is here. So it'll be in two parts, and then on YouTube I will piece them together. But hopefully that should correct any sort of like blurriness on my end. It'll just, it's like turning the computer on and off. And what y'all need you to do is when I start back up, if you want to ask for an invite back in, or I can invite you. But it takes about 2 minutes maybe for me to run that sort of cycle
Okay.
of uploading it, and then we can just keep going right then and there from wherever we leave off. I'm almost done cutting this, and then I'll do that.
That sounds
Assuming
good.
you want to come back.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. It'd be amazing if you just
Be
didn't. Like,
yeah,
just
just left you hanging.
yeah, send in an invite. Well, she said she's coming back, and I don't know. I
And
get it.
we'll just keep waiting.
Yeah,
We'll just
give it another.
couple more minutes.
Okay. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop this here real quick. So again, anybody that's watching, just give it a minute, and we will be back on, and we will pick up where we left off. All right. Here we go,
All right.
everybody.
See you
I'll be
soon.
back. Hello, everybody. This is part 2 of our lovely evening with Ruth Chan, who I will let back in 1 second. But we just got back up and running. I'm just adjusting a couple things here while we wait. So we're back. If you have not, if you're watching this now on my feed or anything of the sort, and you go, "Why is this starting in the middle?" That's because part 1 has already been posted, and so you just can go back and watch that. But I'm gonna see if I can get Ruth back in here, and we'll just keep going where we left off. Well, that's the request thing. Let me see if I can do it this way. Search Ruth. Hold on 1 second. it. Let's see if she is actually going to come back. Talk more. Oh, okay. You are here.
I'm here.
Yes.
All
Yes. You're here.
right.
And not only are you here, but we see, I think you're sealing.
Oh.
Is that what that is?
Right.
Yeah.
There we go. There we
We got it.
go.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Now our feeds are nice and clear, or at
Yay.
least
Oh,
mine is nice and clear.
crystal clear.
Yes. I don't know what does it. There's been nights where it's just like the tiniest little thing will
That's
throw it
so
off and screw up
weird.
the night. But as long as we're back up and running, we are good. So, okay, where did we leave off? We were talking about
We were talking about
Varney and
fashion. Oh, cheap shopping in
oh yeah,
China.
in China. There you go.
Uh,
Okay, so let me ask. Like, you go over there. Like, have you gone back frequently, or is it? I mean, you still have family there.
I still have family there. I haven't. I used to go back a lot. My up until a couple years ago, my parents were still living in Hong Kong. So I'd go back a lot, but then well, not that recently, I guess they moved back to Canada. And so the last time I was there was 2017.
Okay.
And then I was supposed to go during COVID, in 2020, but COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so this is my first time back since 2017, which is the longest I've been away.
I'm
So
just. I was gonna ask, sort of going back and like going back on a frequent basis, or going back to see family, especially having established the career that you have now. What is their perception of the arts, and I don't mean this in a as a slight of any sort, but when I was over there, we visited some of the schools, and some of the schools are very rigid in what they expect for art. Like some of the art,
oh yeah.
like
Oh
in
yeah.
Beijing, some of the training they have to go through, the expectation is you will mimic what is in front of you,
Yeah.
and it's amazing what people can do, but the weird expressionism and that kind of stuff doesn't show up in the same
Yeah.
way.
It's like all technical. It's
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, what has been the reception from family for sort of the career that you have and what you're doing? Do they all sort of get it? Is there a sort of
I
a,
don't
oh,
know
that's
if
different?
they get it. I mean, I don't really. mm, I have like one cousin on my mom's side that it's mostly my mom's side that's in Hong Kong now. And I have like one cousin who's sort of like in an artistic field.
Yeah,
But other than that, like nobody's really in the arts, so I don't think they really like understand per se what I do. And I don't think, and I think being in the US, we sort of take for granted people understanding the scale of children's book publishing.
yeah,
And it's huge here, and we have a big reach, and there's like, there's a lot of people who read kids books here, and Hong Kong is very small. China has a big market, but um they're also very like selective on the types of books that they have, but they have their own market as well, um which I don't know as much about, but it's definitely not, um it's not a traditional career.
yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
interesting just hearing people that have had experiences in other countries, the like perception of kids books. Like, I know there are some folks that I've had on that were from sort of like the Philippines and places wherein, obviously there are kids. It's not like there's this
Right.
like, oh no, we don't have a need for those kind of books or anything of the sort. But there is this like, well, it's maybe not seen as like that important, or maybe it's, and maybe I'm wrong, but like thinking about the idea of the oral tradition of storytelling versus sort of the printed version, and how that gets sort of um, passed down through generations
Yeah.
is very, very different. And so there's like more of a history of that kind of thing. um, it's a really fascinating sort of like
Yeah.
take on sort of how people interact with stories for kids.
Yeah. Well, I think like especially in like East Asian countries like China, South Korea, Japan, like a lot of books are like there's such an emphasis on academic excellence that I think a lot of books are seen as like the reason why you have books are for, you know, like for learning
Yeah,
or
skill
for
building.
tutoring
Yeah,
or for, you know, so like to have a book as like a beautiful object or a good story is very like secondary. And so I think that's why it's like a bit less of a, you know, it's just not considered in the same. I mean, I could be very wrong. I'm not like the number one source here,
yeah.
but
You must speak for the entire country.
yes, so
No, I don't mean to.
all billions of
Yeah, I
people.
don't mean to put you on
Yeah,
that spot. That's probably
no,
the like what
but
happens quite often. I don't mean to do that in this instance,
no,
but
no, no,
the
but
idea
no,
of your
it's an interesting question that I think about as well because it, and I think having like lived in different countries too, it is very easy to live in the US and forget that there are very different perspectives of
yeah.
things, you know? Like
Well,
it's yeah.
the idea of like last week I had on Chuck Gronick,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
he grew up in the Netherlands, and the type of books that were available, like if you go look at Northern European books, especially like German picture books of when we would be kids, they would be this like crazy dark stories that would never fly in the U.S. of any sort. People would be like, you can't read that to a kid.
Right.
Like,
Oh
oh,
my
this talks
God,
about a person
totally.
having, blood pour out of their eyes.
Yeah.
No, like, it's not okay. Um, and so
That's
I,
so true.
yeah, I mean, more power to them, to those kids that can look at that and go like, yeah, I get it, I love it. But that was not. My parents would never buy those. Let's put that.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
It'd be cool if they did. They would be cool parents at that time.
They would be
Um,
cool
do you
parents. Yeah.
now? Here's a fun question for you that I don't know if this is weighed into your head yet, but with a little one, I know there was a time in my kid's eyes that I was like a superhero in a way because I could show up to a school and read a book, and it was, oh, your dad made this book, or your dad, it came to our school as like this, something special.
Mm.
And I'm wondering, I mean, obviously 13 months, your daughter's probably not in school yet, I'm guessing, unless she's really advanced. She's
She's in 12th grade.
yeah, she's already
She,
been accepted to Wellesley,
yeah,
based on
she's basically Doogie Howser, but you know, I don't mean
it
to
just
brag, but
you're like, she's basically Anthony Edwards, not
yeah, but yeah, not George Clooney, but Anthony Edwards.
sometimes we have to settle.
Yeah, good enough, good enough.
She's still a doctor. It's okay.
Yeah,
I like how we're trashing Anthony Edwards, but like he's actually a fabulous actor,
he's
and
I know he's
but somehow he is the epitome of bad, ugly actor in our minds for the moment. Is there is there like things that you're looking forward to when it comes to? And I don't mean to make this whole thing about like, tell me about your daughter. What's your daughter? But are there things that you're looking forward to as someone who is in this industry with your daughter growing up? Like, do you want to go to the school and be like, I'm gonna read my book for you guys?
I do. I'm so excited for that. I remember doing this with my nephews once. I have like twin nephews, and I remember doing a story. They live in Newfoundland, and I remember doing a story time at their local bookstore, and they were like three, I think, maybe
Yeah,
three. And I remember like I was there reading and they sat down watching me and then they just like completely lost their shit. Like they couldn't like figure out how to process the fact that they're like, but that's our aunt. Like
Yeah.
that's our personal person. But she's like a special person right now up there like reading that book. But like no, but
Yeah.
she's our person. Like they went nuts. Like one of them had a total meltdown. And one of them just like had to leave. He just like got up and like went and like hid somewhere else, like just couldn't handle it. And it was like so cute because it's just like, oh, like it's still me, you guys.
The first instance that I had that with my son was they have the thing in school that's called like the 100 days or the
Oh
100th
yeah.
day where they all dress up as old people. And so
Yeah.
like I went into school and read, and it was a day where all these kids come into the like auditorium or the gymnasium in that instance, and they're all dressed up as old people,
Oh
and they
my
had my
god.
son come up to the front to introduce me.
Oh my
And
god.
I don't think he really introduced me, but it's like, this is Charlie's dad. Charlie, come up and you can like say hi or whatever. And he comes up and he's got like suspenders and gray stuff in his
Oh
hair
my
and wrinkles drawn on his face.
god.
And like, so that's the first picture I have of me visiting his school. It's him
That's
as this old
so
man.
cute.
And of course, like, he doesn't look like an old man. He just looks like a kid with like a few things on that are kind of old.
Right.
And that's about it. But it was very, very cute. And that's where, like, you know,
That's
to be called up in front of everybody because somehow it's something special is
that's
really
so
adorable. But I was talking with, and I think you know him, Marty Kelly. Do you know Marty Kelly?
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with him. He's in a crit group that I'm in, and he was telling us about how his son is now a teacher, and at I forget what age range, and he offered to his son to come in and do a reading at their school and do an event, and his son said no.
Whoa. Really?
And well, I told him I think it's probably like a street cred thing where like he's trying to save face in front of all these kids, and to have his dad
His
show up
dad.
might not be that cool. They're all like, you don't have Riz anymore, Mister, or
Yeah.
you don't
He's got
you
to go out on his own.
yeah you can't live on your father's coattails
That's
anymore.
really
But it was
funny.
I don't remember it. I think
That's
he may have
cute.
said that his son teaches middle school, which of course is probably
Oh,
even
yeah, that's
worse.
dicey.
Yeah,
Dicey.
like if you were a teacher that is not cool in middle school, oh, that's got to be
Yeah,
rough.
that's rough. That's really rough. That's so
Um,
hard.
did you have good art teachers growing up?
You know, I did. Like, they were the only good. Well, that's not true. I had some good English teachers too. Um, but I had really supportive art teachers in high school. Um, and they were like the classic, like so my middle and high school art teachers were like both like really gruff men who just like pretended like they didn't give a shit about anything.
Yeah.
But like really were just very like passionate and had a heart of gold kind of guys. And they were just very sweet, um, but would never let on that they were really sweet. And
They always
uh,
yeah always had to play the tough guy.
yeah, always playing the tough guy, but then like in parent teacher conferences, they'd be like, Ruth just has a lot of potential. She's just so thoughtful in her work, and I'm like, what? What did they say? Like, he's always just yelling at me all the time.
It's
Um,
because he saw a future in it for you that he has to hold you to a higher standard.
I guess so. Look at me now, just
Yeah,
drawing, I don't know
yeah.
what.
I the high school teachers that I had one that would like fake paint or paint fake. There we go. Cuts on people and send them down to the nurse. Uh, we had
What?
we had some wild. One of our teachers, a guy named Mr. Telford, was amazing to the point wherein he retired the year that I graduated, and we got him a gift. The students that were in the art program got him a gift, and we bought him leopard skin bikini briefs, and that was like okay. Like, I mean, yeah, you probably wouldn't do that now, Uh, but
That's amazing.
it is something wherein I've just read that my wife is in Haverhill right now, which is a town near us, getting an anti-nausea medicine for my son. Um, he's he's on antibiotics, and it's really upsetting his stomach, like
Oh,
really bad. And
buddy,
so,
that's hard.
Lauren, if you're listening to this, thank you for doing that. While you're there, if you want to pick up, no, I won't do that in the
Wait,
middle of this. Uh,
wait, how do you pronounce that? It's not Haverhill? Haverhill?
no, it's Haverhill.
I never knew that.
This is this is Massachusetts. Instead
That's
of
true.
instead of
Nothing you think.
yeah,
That's
instead of
true.
Peabody, it's Peabody.
Peabody, yeah.
Worcester and
You
whatnot.
know
So,
what? It took me forever to know that it was pronounced Situate.
what did you say?
Scatatuate. I've been, yeah, because I do a school visit there like
Yeah.
all the time, and I've just been saying it wrong for years, and I'm like, oh
I
God,
did
just whoops.
I did a school visit that was, I don't even remember what the school was. Uh, but I put in, like, in the slideshow, a thing like, thank you whatever school. I don't remember what the name of the school was. But I ended up, the entire time I started out the visit like saying, thank you for inviting me to your school, and I said the name of the school. And then shortly thereafter, this little girl had her hand raised, and I'm like, oh man, she's got a question right off the bat.
Yeah,
And I'm like, okay, so I'll answer questions at the end of this, and
yeah.
thank you. And finally get to the whole end of the presentation. I said, I'm going to you first. You've had your hand up the whole time. And then she tells me that I misspelled their school name and said it wrong.
Oh man.
And she didn't have a question. She just had to correct me because I was an idiot and didn't pay attention to said school name. And, of course, I felt awful by disrespecting this
Right.
wonderful school. But,
That and just
he also,
being like, remember what we said? Questions at the end.
yes. Have you done lots of school visits?
I have, yeah.
And so tell me, you got to have some story in there that was one kid that said something stupid, or I know there's some story that you got.
I did. There was one that, I just looked at their hi Claire. I'm just seeing like I finally looked at like the screen. Um There was one, I was on book tour with Julie Falatko. We were on book tour for The Great Indoors, and we went to a Jewish day school. And so we do like, I always do like a drawing demonstration, right? And
Yeah.
so there's a part in the Great Indoors where like the beavers are like cooking up a storm. And so I'm like, okay, like what are the beavers gonna make? And the kids are like, like pizza. And we're like, yeah, all right. So what are you gonna add? I'm like, cheese. And we're like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, and what about some pepperoni? And it goes dead silent. And the kids are like mortified. Like they are just like and I'm like, what? And of course I like realized like just too late, like, right, definitely not
You're like,
pepperoni.
kosher pepperoni.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yeah. But and as like right as I'm about to like correct myself, of course there's a kid that's like arm shoots up and they're like, we don't eat pepperoni. And I'm like, yep, got it. So sorry.
Didn't read the room.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think if there was
Neither.
like, I don't think there was any like major. I mean, I've had the silly questions, or of course the like, you okay questions, and then of course
Like a
it's some big state.
comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my uncle likes to collect pennies, and you're like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me at all.
Yeah.
But I feel like there was shoot, what was it? There was one that I had at one point that was like, I had one that was a how old are you? Which is like, I don't even,
Oh.
that doesn't bother me really. I don't care about telling people my age. But there was one where it was like, how much money do you make?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have learned that the best thing I can say is not enough, just like your
Oh
teachers. uh,
Oh, I'm
and
gonna
watch
use that.
those
That's
teachers go like,
good.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
definitely not enough. Um, and then I feel like there was something else that I had that was a rough one, but the ones that are the hardest for me to watch, and I don't know if you've had this prior, but I mean, you talked about it with like the kids that have behavioral challenges. There was one where I could see there was a kid that was really struggling, um, and starting to get antsy and was like starting to self harm in a
Oh,
way. They had like a teacher's aide there that was able to go sort of deal with it relatively quickly, but it was very hard to work and know that that was going on
oh
in the
yeah.
background without wanting to say like like, oh, can we do something, can I help, can I do uh
Yeah,
it was very hard to sort of
that's
manage
tough.
that, but you kind of have to plug on and
Yeah,
know that they have their act in order.
yeah,
um but it is, to me, those events are generally amazing and totally worth the the craziness that is involved, just so you get a chance to
absolutely.
interact with these crazy kids.
I know it's so. Yeah, there was one also with Julie when we were on tour. So in the great indoors, this is like one of my favorite moments that. So in the great indoors, the story is like a bunch of animals come into a human's home and they make
Yes.
themselves at home, right? And I had purposely sort of made their home like an Asian American home without saying it, because I feel like
Yeah.
that you can have
Subtle.
representation of diversity without it being like characters or like making
Yeah.
it about like Chinese New Year.
Super
So it was
blatant.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted it to be like a subtle, like, like normalizing
Yes.
diversity.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, there's like the slippers are by the front door, or there's like a rice cooker. And so, and there's like a scroll with Chinese characters and stuff. And so, we were reading the book, and at the end there were like questions and time for comments. And there was like this whole time there was like this boy, this Chinese boy who's like sitting there like really shy, and he's just kind of like, you could tell he wanted to raise his hand and he wasn't really sure. He's just kind of sitting there, and finally, and I'm like keeping my eye on him, and he finally like kind of gets the courage to raise his hand. So I'm like, yes, yes, do you have a question or a comment? He's like, I have a comment or a question and a comment. I'm like, huh? And he's like, are you Chinese? And I'm like, I am. And he's like, oh, yeah, I knew that because like I'm also Chinese, and I saw that in the book that there were some Chinese characters, and like those are the same language that like we have at home, and
Oh,
we have like a painting that's like similar. And I noticed that, yeah, because like we're Chinese too. And he was like had this very cute little smile. And then like a bunch of other Chinese kids in the group kind of made that, they make that like
yeah.
connection symbol. And they were kind of like enthusiastically doing that too. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm melting. It's just like
Oh,
so cute that they made that little observation, and that he felt like that it was like important enough for
to
him to
raise.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was such a like cute little
Yeah.
moment. And the teacher afterwards was like, we have never seen him speak out like that.
You know
It was,
that kid went home and was like a total turd for the rest of the day,
oh,
and that was
absolutely.
just the one moment he was
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. And never again,
Yeah.
never again. Yeah.
What
And
happened at
now
school
he's like
today?
in like ninth
Nothing.
grade. So like, yeah.
um it's the those moments of like those little kids, I don't know, I mean, you probably are in the middle of it, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but I have a deep love um of well, that's, no, I don't want to say this. I was about to say I have a deep love of little kids. That does not sound right. I have a deep appreciation for little kids and the how cute they are. And because my son is older now and has crossed into that boundary of being, basically a preteen,
Yeah.
I would love to get a chance to hold a baby again and to, have a kid at that age just for a day,
Mm,
just because
mm.
moments where you're like, oh, like I don't know if you've hit this yet, but where like you nap with the kid. It's not like you put them down for a nap, but sometimes you get a chance to just like straight up nap with your kid, and then they wake up and they're just sweaty
Yeah.
and
Oh
their
my God.
hair is going every direction, and like I don't get to do that anymore, and I would love to do that again.
Yeah.
And so like being in this kidlit world, not that I'm going taking naps with the kids, but
We're like, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
let me change the story. Never mind. No, but there is this ability to go back and relive some of the like, oh, I remember when my son was this old, or I remember when we had these moments where he would say these
Yeah.
cute, like he would have this little accent where he couldn't pronounce certain words, and like, oh,
So
it's so
cute.
adorable, and like to have that opportunity to sort of kind of not just see it, but to relive it in a way on a on a basis through kids and school visits is so great. Um,
Yeah.
do you have a routine that's like your go-to? Like this is what I do at these events, and this is the order that I do them.
Oh yeah, I have the same one every time. Um, and like mostly because it's like it works really well and I have it timed perfectly. But I mean, I was gonna say I totally know what you feel like because as much as teaching burnt me out, I actually really miss being with the kids, you know?
Yeah.
I really miss that interaction and like getting to be like, yeah, like to have to like see the silliness of the kids. And even those like really funny weird comments that the kindergartners give you, it's just like, oh man, I miss that. It's so fun.
Now,
Like I always get a like when I do like presentations with my I have some books that are like about a cat, you know, and like a dog, and I always get the like, I had a cat, but he's dead now, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, man. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
you can make them into pepperoni.
Yeah,
You just find some way to slide that back in.
exactly. It's delicious. You should try it.
um,
Um,
yeah, there's I've had a couple of little weird comments that were kind of like sad like that, or like probably not the place.
yeah.
Um, but it is like one of the things that has always been the best is when you get the kid that has the lisp, and
Oh,
like you're like, oh,
yeah.
like it's so cute.
Oh,
And I know that
so
like at some point that kid's
cute.
gonna be like, I hate that I have this, and this is
Yeah.
not, that was not cool. But like as an adult, I'm like, that's the
So,
cutest little
and they're not
thing.
self-conscious about
No.
it at all.
Now, I
Yeah.
will say I do not miss the colds. Like my son has a cold right now, or getting over one, and that's not cool. But definitely in that age range, like
Oh my God.
I imagine since you were teaching those youngins that you just
Oh my God.
were flooded with
Yeah.
boogers and snot on
Oh,
a regular
yeah.
basis.
I was sick all the time. Oh,
you
oh.
you probably have built up enough of a tolerance that you're never going to be sick for the rest of your life
I
because
mean, now I actually get sick all the time because I think I lost my immunity. It's really
during
sad.
during COVID,
It's yeah.
we were
It's
we were talking about that with my son. Like he's gotten a lot of colds since that time frame, and we were very protective with masks and things of the sort.
yeah.
And now it's
It's
sort of like,
brutal.
yeah, he gets them left and right.
It's
Um,
really brutal.
Now he also needs to stop picking his nose. So let's keep that in
That's on
mind.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's certain things you get to work on in that situation, but yeah, he still, some of it's not his fault. Some of it.
Some. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it may be me picking my nose and coming home too. So who knows?
It's a family
He,
affair.
yeah, a family of fingers and noses and nostrils. Um,
That's a
is
good
there?
picture book.
You said that your husband is an artist. What kind of art does he do?
So he he's one of those that has a full-time job
Gross.
doing art.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're being
So
really secretive.
he
What kind of art?
No, he works with an artist, so he's
Okay.
like the production director for the artist.
Okay.
So he essentially oversees the team of art. Oh, I just realized this part I'm working on is not in the camera. So he oversees the team of artists that that produces the art for the artist, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I was so
So,
hoping that because you didn't say what he did right away, that it was going to be like he does boudoir art
yeah,
or something like that.
yeah.
Like something that like you're just being very careful about how to say
Just
it on
as a kidlet.
here. You know, you have he has a night job.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah. He's still at work now.
is he really?
Yeah. No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, he did just get home, but that's because we're actually going to Hong Kong on Saturday, so
Oof.
we're both trying to wrap up work
What? How
before
long is that flight?
16 hours.
Does it as well go over the North Pole?
Um, I don't think so.
Because when we went to
Actually, I,
Beijing,
I think it does.
yeah, when we
Yes,
went to
I think it
Beijing, we
does.
went over the North Pole, or close to it. I don't know as we really went over it.
Yes.
Um, we saw Santa for a hot second, and then we continued on. But the it was a long flight, but of course you're trying to sleep through the whole thing as
Yeah.
much as you can, anyways.
I mean, I
Um,
don't know how much sleep we're gonna have with a toddler, but
yeah,
we're gonna try. We're
I
gonna
did.
try.
I did the thing that surprised me, and I had never flown that far overseas before. And the fact that they gave us socks on the airline was
Oh, yeah.
wild. I was like, "What is this?" And I still have the little tiny toothpaste that they gave
Oh
me
my God.
because I think it's so
Doesn't it feel like
well.
luxurious? Like
I don't know if I would ever use that toothpaste. It seems a little sketchy to me. I don't know Ames brand, but I mean, it might be fine, but
there's
I'm
only
not gonna
one
crack that one.
way to find out.
Yeah, yeah. There's yeah, I mean, it may not be good anymore as well at this point. But I remember that flight there. I think I watched like I could barely sleep and was stuck in the middle seat,
Oh
and,
God.
and
Oh, that's
I
awful.
didn't get up. I mean, of course, the person next to me is like asleep through the whole thing, so I can't really like be like, "Hey,
Excuse
get up! I
me.
need to go to the bathroom."
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I don't think I went to the bathroom the entire
Oh
time
my
on the flight.
God,
Yeah,
no. You're too
yeah.
kind. No, no,
But then
no.
the flight back was amazing because we had the entire row to ourselves. I
Uh,
don't even know how that happened, but like we fell asleep. I don't think I even woke up the entire time.
wow.
It was sort of we got on and then we all of a sudden we're back home,
That's
and
amazing.
we did end up with this horrible thing. So it's the dean and I, and we were going to look at like colleges who were over there to see if we could like work with them and pair with them on projects and things of the sort.
Yeah.
And we got to the airport and in Beijing, and we were going to fly out of there, and we had a bunch of extra time, and so we're like, oh, what should we do? And we had all this extra money that we're like, we're not going to go, like, some of it was not enough to make a big exchange in the US, but it was not enough that we wanted to like really hold on to it either. So we're like, we were walking around, they had a little foot massage place. We're like, it's funny if we
Ooh.
got foot massages. And so we went and we got foot massages, the dean and I sitting in there right before the flight. And then all of a sudden, as they're wrapping up, they go, "Oh, you might want to hurry along to your flight." And we're like, "What?" They go, "Well, your flight's supposed to be taking off soon." And we're like, "Oh, yeah, we got it." So we went to the gift shop to buy some stuff, duty free or whatever it is before we come back to the
Your
States.
Christian
Yeah,
Dior outfit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I bought some silk things and nothing real crazy. But as we're there, someone comes running up to us and says, "Are you Mark Hoffman and Brian, blah, blah, blah?" We're like, "Yeah."
Well,
So,
yes, we are.
yeah. And they go, "Your flight has already boarded. You need to get on it now." We're like,
What?
what? Somehow we had like mistimed something and spent our time instead getting our foot massage and did not pay attention to the time that we were supposed to get on the flight. So we were the last two people that walked
Oh
on,
my
and
God.
everybody's glaring
Oh,
at us because they
that's
were,
my biggest nightmare.
yeah, they were holding it for us, but then of course there weren't that many people, so we like lucked out. We just sat down and fell asleep and woke up in the state. Um, it could
Show
have
up
been so
late.
bad. Like if we had gotten stuck. I mean, I'm a nervous like traveler overseas in general,
Yeah.
and so missing a flight would have been a nightmare for me. I would have been freaking out.
Yeah,
Um,
that's I mean, nobody wants that. Yeah.
I just a 14-hour flight and you miss it. I don't know how many go out thereafter, um, but I did get home. I did get home.
Ugh.
Um, is there growing up in Canada, were there things that were like this is called culture hour, where we're talking like obviously me being in Minnesota, I don't know where you said Ottawa?
Ottawa, yeah.
So that's like above New York, right?
Um,
Little to
I
the left, little
guess
to the right.
I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's why you're supposed to be the expert.
I
Um,
know. You would think.
I mean, you did grow
Let
up
me
there, right?
zoom out.
This isn't some lie that you've been telling the whole time
I know. I'm
about.
not even Canadian, right?
Yeah. What?
Ottawa is, yes, it's exactly north. Right, right, right. I knew that because
Okay.
Montreal is like due north of us. Yes.
Okay.
North of New York City, yes.
I've been up to the Ottawa Animation Festival that's up there, the International
Mm-hmm.
Animation Festival, which is very fun. I was thinking like I don't remember traveling that far to get to it, but what was I gonna say that idea of like growing up in a very cold place and sort of the effects that has on you as a little kid, etc. Were you someone that was an outdoorsy person at the time, or were you someone that, I mean, obviously going over to Hong Kong and Beijing and whatnot can be very, very hot, and you even mentioned that in the book. But you're coming from Canada. Did you grow up as like liking the cold?
I feel like when you're a kid, you don't even really notice the cold, especially when you grow up in the cold. You don't, that's all you know.
Yeah. Okay.
So we spent all our like every day. We didn't have snow days. And like, I mean, it is so Canadian. Like, so for gym class, we would go tobogganing. That was
Mm,
like our gym class where we had, I went to a Montessori school, which was fantastic. And we had a hill that we called Montessori Mountain. And that was like literally our gym classes. We would like climb up the mountain and then toboggan down and go up and down, up and down. And then for recess, we would bring our ice skates to
yeah.
school.
Yep. Okay.
And did you have
We
that
did in
too?
Minnesota. Yeah, there was a little pond that they would make.
Yes.
And so during recess, if you had hockey skates or you had ice skates or whatever, you could bring them and skate.
Yes. It was so fun. Now I'm like, oh my God, that was so dangerous to have a bunch of like children
Slipping
skating.
and
Yeah.
sliding, broken bones. And
It's just right. Like so crazy. But we did that. It was so fun. And we made like forts and during recess and our teachers would like hose it down to like ice it over.
that's
And
cool. We didn't have that.
yeah, and then like the rule was that by the end of recess it belonged to nobody so that it could belong to anybody by the beginning of like next day.
Oh, so yeah, you can't claim
Yeah, you can't
ownership.
claim ownership. It was very fair. And then in Toronto, like one of my favorite things, and they do it now every winter, is they have something called Winterlude, which is so there's like a canal, a man-made canal that runs essentially through the city and then downtown,
Yeah.
and it freezes over, and so downtown there's like a big winter festival. It has like ice sculptures and there's like fudge and like beaver tails, which is like fried
Yep.
dough. Um, and people will like,
I like that
drive
you had to
to,
clarify that for anybody that doesn't know what a beaver tail.
yeah.
We used to have like
Anybody?
moose antlers, beaver tails, and
Yeah.
woodchuck eyes, and
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you guys know that.
the
Just the
I,
usual,
the
just the usual Canadian fare
yeah
feast.
yeah that was an
Um,
everyday meal that everybody had. It was like
yeah.
you're gonna have whatever meal, but it was sort of like having bread. You just had a
Yeah,
real
I mean,
beaver
it's
tail
basically
there.
the only food we have up there, so you have to hunt it though.
Yeah,
Uh, but you know, you like drive to the closest part of the canal to your house with your skates, and then you skate down the canal to Winterlude and
that's
you know
cool.
hang out. It's so fun. And then for a while it didn't happen because the canal wasn't freezing over enough, which you know, climate change, blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Cry,
Um,
cry, cry.
yeah, doesn't exist. But yeah, that was like a really wonderful sort of very like Ottawan thing to do.
That's cool.
So
The
yeah,
closest. Did you ever? Because again, I don't know if this was Canadian or not. Obviously hockey, but
yeah.
we had a thing when we were in school because it was cold enough in the area that we were in, Minnesota, wherein like I don't know if my class ever did. I know there was a thing that they would do cross country skiing
Oh
for
yeah.
like for gym class sometimes, or we had a thing called, and this is the one I want to find out about, broom ball. Do you know broom
Oh my God.
ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
many people know about it outside of like northern Midwest in the States. Maybe in Maine there might be something of the sort, but and that was dangerous. That one was like you're not even on skates. It's just get out there on your shoes
Yeah.
and have a hardened broom that is dipped in plastic and swing it around.
Yeah. I
And like
remember
that
we
was our
had that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was such
Broom ball.
a
I
dangerous sport.
forgot about that.
It's yeah, it was not a in my opinion not the best idea, especially because my first attempt in gym class I swung and hit a ball right into someone's
Oh
face
my God.
and like I think bloodied up their lip, which
I
was
mean,
not
the fact that you're still talking about it now, you know,
I did some
it's,
damage. Yeah. It's haunted me to this
I
day.
wonder if that person is on Instagram Live right now
Watching
talking about what?
just
They're talking about how they had a traumatic thing happen with
I'm just
broomball.
gonna look in the comments and
So,
just see someone coming up here like you asshole.
you know, yeah, I remember. I
Yeah.
haven't forgotten.
I haven't been able to
Yeah.
speak out of my mouth for
Yeah.
30 something years
I
because of that. I don't
I
I
can
couldn't even
only
do the math fast enough, so I had to go with 30. I think. Yeah, it's probably about that.
30-ish.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Since I was in that environment. Um
Well, we had snowshoeing for gym class.
Ooh,
I remember that.
that's cool.
Yeah.
We had
But with like old school snowshoes, like the like that looked like tennis rackets, not like the cool ones.
yeah, the ones that were like actually made out of wood and wicker
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I
not
remember
the
being like really annoyed by, but now I'm like, that was so cool.
yeah, we had a I was my son is doing rock climbing now at a like indoor rock climbing place, and I was telling him the other day about how when I was little, when I was in elementary school, we had a thing, and it seems crazy to me now that it would be elementary school that they did this, but we had like I don't know if it was a full week away or if it was like a long weekend or something of the sort, where we went up to the woods and we did stuff like deer tracking and
Ooh.
broomball, of course, but also like built our own like snow forts and started fires and whatnot. But one of
That's
the things that we did
cool.
was tracking, and they gave us all snowshoes, and we had to go track down like a recent, deer that had come through and see if we could find it. Of course, we never.
Ooh, that's so
But
cool.
like as a kid that age, I'm like, I don't know if I would send my kid on an overnight,
Yeah.
like 3 day trip
And then
to
yeah.
some weird
And this
location that's up in the woods. It just
yeah.
seems a little dangerous. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not a big deal, but maybe it's me being a helicopter parent in
I
the
know.
situation now. But
Times have
yeah,
changed.
now I wouldn't do that. But I mean, I was like 10 and I was off doing that stuff, and
Oh
that
my
just seems
God.
great. Yeah, but whatever. I managed it. I mean,
Yeah,
we had
you're fine now.
yeah,
Look at you. Look at
yeah. I'm like deathly afraid of the outdoors, and
you.
uh, well, I do. I was telling them because we were talking about soda cans exploding in the cold. And I do
Uh,
distinctly remember a kid in my dorm room there. So it was like, you know, probably about 10, 12 or like 10-year-olds in a room all farting and laughing all night long. And there was a kid who put his soda can outside the window, and we woke up and it was just frozen foam all over the place because we didn't know that it would like explode.
right.
But we learned our lesson.
I mean, good thing it was outside. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you know. We but we did like rock climbing. We did all sorts. It was cool. I feel like nowadays they just don't do that kind of stuff
No.
with little kids. Maybe it's probably is a safety hazard in a lot of it. They just, you know, insurance purposes, but they didn't care back in the day.
No, we
Um,
could do anything. I mean, we didn't even. I mean, I like remember when we used to ride in the back of the station wagon?
mm, mm,
Oh,
mm.
that was the
The
best.
fun seat
The
that looked
fun.
back on everybody else in the
Yeah.
back.
Oh my God, I loved it.
You got to like make hand signals at the car behind you.
Exactly. We
My
used to have did you ride the school bus to school?
yes.
Uh we used to have a carpool with my like a couple of neighbors, and we'd be so bored that we'd come up with all these games. I just remembered this. And so we came up with this game called, or not game, but like we created a mustache spy where it
Do
was like my
explain.
brother.
Do
What's that?
I said do explain.
Yeah.
That one you can't.
So it's like it was my brother, me, and then our two friends, Jordan Guest and Sarah Lindberner. They were like our carpool pals. And we created a mustache spy where we would look. There were three of us that were the scouts, and then Sarah Lindberner was like the note taker, the secretary, and we would basically just write down the license plates of anyone who had a mustache in the car. And that was it. That was like the entire thing. And we would do it every day. And she had like a little like those spiral flip notebooks. And we would just fill like notebook after notebook of just like random license plates of people. And it was like the 80s, so it was like everybody had mustaches, like
Good
um
Tom Selleck mustaches.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like one time we had already dropped off um Sarah and Jordan and my brother and I on our way home. We saw someone with a mustache and we're like, oh my God, we have to tell Sarah tomorrow to log it in. And so we were just repeating the license plate over and over. And I still remember it was G97D22, and he still remembers it too. And that was like literally like 35 years ago. And I can't believe we still remember the license plate number
You gotta
from.
you gotta find because there's probably someone out there with that car license plate number
Oh my God,
still.
I
You gotta find
know.
someone that works in like the Canadian Mounties and see if they can look up who
I
owns that car,
should.
if they still have a mustache.
Yeah, like please, please. Because if you do, you get this weird bootleg paper badge that
You're
says
you're
congrats.
the mustache king.
Yeah.
And the yeah, there was. I mean, we didn't have much to do back in the day. We didn't have the cool things that everybody,
No,
all
no,
the hip technology that these
that's
kids
right.
have. I'm trying to think if there's any like weird tech, or not tech, but like stories from the bus. Man, I'm sure that there's something there. I remember certain things from my childhood. Like there was a kid who lived a street over whose name was Jason D. Wolf, and I always remember his name.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, D. Wolf, Jason D. Wolf.
That's that's a badass
Yeah,
name.
cool
I
sounding
wonder
name, right?
what they're doing. They're up to now.
He's probably like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to know.
Like a Steven Seagal. Yeah.
That's what he is now. Is he's kicking butts and taking names,
Yeah.
or whatever phrase you want to go with there. Um, no, there was we had this. Now we're just going back to, like, for anybody that's listening. Hopefully this is sparking memory lane for people. But we had this neighbor, I remember back in the 80s, wherein I forget who I was talking with on here about like collecting Garbage Pail Kid
Oh
cards.
my
And
God, I remember those.
there was a
Yeah.
group of us that would go collect those, but there was this kid that was in that group. And I don't remember, I think his first name was DJ, if I remember correctly, who lived down the street. And all I remember about this kid is he would take a compass like you would use for drawing to get circles, and he would sit out front of his house and throw it at his front door and stick it in the front door. And of course, like he was like four or fourth grade, something like that, maybe. Like it was dangerous. But his mom every year would buy the same birthday presents. So she'd go and find stock of something and buy like 10 of them. And so whoever had the first birthday of the year got to be surprised. And then whoever had the next birthday knew exactly what they were getting because that DJ's mom would go and buy that exact same present
That's
for
so
everybody.
funny.
And like, I don't remember what the kid looks like. I don't remember like much beyond his house was on a certain side of the street, but I do remember that I knew one year I was getting a miniature basketball, and the next year I got one of those foam airplanes that you throw and it sort of flips upside down
Oh
loop.
yeah.
And like that was, I knew those were coming because someone else got them before me. And like those are the kind of memories I have from that era, these weird random
That's
things that
so
occur.
funny what you remember. I love
Do you
that.
are you someone that remembers a lot from your childhood?
I do. Yeah. Like I have a lot of friends who are like, "Oh yeah, I don't remember anything from my childhood."
Yeah.
And I remember a lot. Like a lot of really small little moments. Like I mean, I remember one time we used to play, I mean, this is also very Canadian, but like my friend Jordan, my carpool buddy, and I, we used to go play in the beaver dam behind his house. And
Like an actual beaver dam.
like an actual beaver dam.
Just to make sure it's not a like some sort of fried dough situation.
Yeah, no, yeah, like an actual literal, thank you for
Yes.
clarifying.
Yes.
You know,
Okay.
I know it can get confusing. Um, but yeah, and it was really fun because it was like really muddy and it was backed up against this huge mud hill, so we would like have competitions of who could climb up the hill highest before like mudsliding down. And I remember like loving it but also being really nervous because I get in trouble
Yeah, you come
because
home all
you know
muddy.
you come home all muddy. And then one time my shoe got stuck in the beaver dam and I couldn't get it out.
Oh.
And I had to like go home with out a shoe. And you know, again, it's like we didn't have a lot of money and I was like, "Oh my God, my mom is gonna kill me." I mean, I don't even actually remember how my mom reacted. I probably blocked it out, but I remember just being like so terrified, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe my shoe got caught in a beaver dam."
Did you get the shoe back?
No. Nope.
There's some beaver out there that's
Yeah.
walking around with one shoe on, just
Yeah.
proud as hell.
Yeah. It's
I
like, check
got
out
I got
this
this.
cool Reebok pump.
Yeah, just sitting there, just pumping it over and over. Check this out, everybody!
Yeah.
Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze,
Check
and that
this
little valve where
out.
you can release it.
Yeah.
That was their
It's my
that
little
was their
fidget.
secret thing.
Yeah.
Um, was there like when you were that age going through all this stuff, obviously like going back, I'm gonna go back a little bit to the book because for anybody that's watching going like I want to hear more about the book.
Oh, right.
um,
Right.
so
The book.
this is the age range like that you're going through this awkward time, right? I mean 13, I can't imagine. I mean I can see it in the writing, I can see it in the story and whatnot, but um that is a very awkward time just to begin with. But I know there was a moment of like the clothes that you were wearing or the first day of school and not, you know, feeling like you had a place of sorts. Was this a something that like you had to reach into your memory bank to really find these memories, or is this stuff that was really like vivid in your head that you didn't have to search very far to find?
That's a good question. It's pretty vivid in my head. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of it in my diary as well, but it's all pretty clear. And it's really funny because, like, a lot of the things that are in the book were like, like, when I was kind of coming up with the outline of the book, a lot of the things were very instantly, like, the scenes were came up very instantly, like, oh yeah, this happened and this happened. And that first day of school scene was like, oh yeah, I remember that so clearly. And so does Bonnie, actually. And then there were some scenes that were very clear to me. And, like, one of the most painful memories from that time, for anyone who hasn't read the book, is like there's a 2-week period where Bonnie completely ignores me
Mm-hmm.
for a reason that I don't understand, which is, like, I feel like so typical of that age, and, like, especially female friendships, where you're just like, what is
Yeah.
happening? And it's like so painful. And it was like truly one of the most painful memories of my time. And Bonnie does not remember doing that at all. Like, she doesn't remember at all. And I'm like, you don't remember, like, hurting me the most? Um, and it's so funny because she's like, no, I never did that. And I'm like, it's funny because I literally found a card that she wrote me that was like, hey, sorry that I ignored you. I guess I was just jealous. But I'm glad that we're friends now. It taught me that how much I really value our friendship. And I was like, see,
Yeah.
you did ignore me. And she's like, wow, okay, I guess I really did.
It's
But
surprisingly in
it's
your handwriting. It's
yeah, yeah.
See, you did say that. You said that I was the most
See?
beautiful girl in the world, and that
Yeah,
you
and
felt
I'm the
really bad.
smartest. Yeah. And
um,
I'm gonna be an amazing author one day.
when I read that part of the book, I thought you were doomed. I thought it was like that was it, and you were going to
Mhm.
talk about like finding someone else as a friend, or there was the other girl. I
Oh,
forget what her name is.
Claudia.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and then that you two became like the best of friends or something of the sort. And so I was very happy to see that you and Bonnie um,
Yeah.
came to your senses. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Or that
Yeah.
no, that Bonnie
That
came to her senses.
Bonnie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This
Yeah.
Bonnie is a real jerk.
Yes, she
Uh,
is. I
hopefully
hope she's
she's watching
watching.
tonight and hears it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I'm gonna see her in 2 days. So
yeah, you
yeah.
tell
I'll
her I said that
yeah.
wasn't
I
cool.
thought so.
This random guy on the internet that
This
you don't know
dude. Yeah.
said that was really uncool of you.
This dude who's really into young kids.
Yeah. This dude was into young kids and tennis pumps.
Yeah.
Uh, like at that point, it's like I don't care. Yeah, you can say whatever because
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Yeah, I don't trust it. Um, yeah,
Mm,
you tell her that this. I I think what she did was horrible and should be
yeah.
never forgiven.
Deplorable. Deplorable. Yeah.
Um, it, I'm actually really impressed that you are still not in a like a like I can't believe you're still friends with these people, but I don't keep in touch with any of the folks that I like grew up with really. Like college people, yes, I'm friends with those folks, but the like elementary school, middle school, etc. I moved away and really sort of lost track of folks. So
Mm.
I'm impressed that you're actually talking to Bonnie and that you still maintained. Is she into the arts of any sort?
Oh no. Not at all.
The
No.
It's one of those. The reason why I ask is what I found fascinating is like when I moved away, I went to art school. So I went off to RISD in Rhode Island. So I like moved out of Minnesota, and most of the people stayed in Minnesota. And then I come back, and my experience in art school is so different. And I don't know if it was the same for you, but art school is a weird place to be. And there's a lot that can go on that's very strange.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, they're talking about, well, I went into this business class where we learned accounting, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I know people who threw poop at the wall and called it, art, and
Right.
like whatever that variable is. Not that I know that, but there was some weird stuff that happened, and it's very hard to relate to them at that point and go like, yeah, I get what you went through, and they don't understand what I went through.
Yeah.
And, so I lost track, and that's why I was wondering, like, did Bonnie have some connection to the arts, or did the friendship sort of power through that in some way and become something, despite you both having a very sort of different life growing up?
Yeah, I think I mean, I think it was because I went back to Hong Kong a lot. Because my parents were there.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like kept in touch with her. I'm not, I mean, I don't exactly know why. We just kind of like did. And you know, all the Hong Kong, all my school friends in Hong Kong are all like still pretty close, and they're all still in Hong Kong. And it's funny because I'm not really friends with anyone from college at all.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Well, I hear they're jerks, so that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Wellesley's, well, you know. Uh,
They're all living the millionaire
yeah,
life at Wesley.
yeah,
Wellesley.
yeah. Really, I'm just resenting them, which is why I don't talk to any of them.
For I don't know how many people don't, but Wesley. I keep wanting to say Wesley. Wellesley
It's
is a
okay.
very
Everyone does
like
it wrong.
a very prestigious school. It's where Hillary Clinton went. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like it's was it an all
Diane
yeah,
Sawyer.
was it an all girls school when you were there?
Yeah, it's a all women's college.
It still is, right?
They're very particular about saying that.
But it still is that, right?
It still
Yeah,
is, yeah.
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 I was gonna say I thought at one point there was some challenge to that. Of like maybe we need to have those yucky men join.
They do, well, we do have like or they, I guess, have cross registration. So like the is that your
That's
dog?
one of them. Yes, that's Noodle.
Oh, Noodle.
Chicken.
I
Her
just
real
realized
name is.
my dog's been sleeping next to me this entire time
Oh,
and has been. Oh my God, you need to go out for a walk, Leroy. Okay, you can wait. You're fine. You're fine. He
just
just looked up at me so sad, like, yeah, I'm just waiting.
so you
You're
know, our
fine.
dog's full name is Chicken Noodle Corn Dog.
Oh my God, I did
The other
not
one
know
is
that.
Little Miss Mayonnaise. May is the
Oh,
name, O is the middle initial, and Nays Nays is her last name. And
that's
so it's
incredible.
Mayo and Noodle. I like to name dogs weird names, and so does the family.
They should
So
all have weird
it's so
names.
fun to go to the vet with it. We when I first called in, when we registered them with the vet, they say like, oh, you have a new dog, give us the information. And so I said, okay, here's the name, and I said Chicken Noodle Corn Dog, and the lady on the phone goes, I was like, she is not feeling it whatsoever. Most everybody else is like, we love that name, and most of the people there are like, oh, it's Noodle, or they love the full name. But that one lady was not enjoying the fact that we named our dog that,
Which,
and it's just
which
fun.
makes it even more fun
Yes,
to be
there was
exasperating somebody like that.
because sometimes they have to call them by the name, so they'll come up and they'll say like Chicken Noodle Corn Dog, then they like bring your dog back. But at one point, and I should stress, I am not a religious person, nor was I trying to make fun of religion. But the idea that they have to announce the name of the dog sometimes, or the pet, I wanted to name a cat back in the day, Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So when you're at the vet and they call up your dog, or like, time for you to come to the back, they have to go, Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and you can stand up with your pet and walk to the back. And it was just a really dumb joke, but to me it was so funny, and I wanted to do that, but I never got around to it. There were a bunch of any silly names I can give a dog. I wanted to name a dog Lieutenant Governor or something at some point, just
so
because
good.
it's funny to have, or like District Attorney as part of it. So it's not like a big title, or like Lieutenant Governor. It's not Governor so and so. It's Lieutenant Governor. They
Yeah.
don't get full credit.
Just yeah.
Like that kind of thing is totally my type of humor. I want to push as hard as I can. What's your dog's name?
It's Leroy.
Oh,
But
come on, that's so lame.
I know. I know.
Now you
Well, okay,
know.
so here's the thing. I always have these like wild ambitions for naming my pets, but all my pets have always been rescues. And every time I get them, I'm like, I'm gonna name them something so great. And then they come with their rescue name, and then I don't have the heart to change
Uh,
their rescue name. And then it's always been their rescue name. So I had Leroy, I had a Feta, I had a
Shadow.
Georgie.
Aw.
Yeah, Feta was very sweet. Yeah, that was a good one.
No,
But
we changed their names before we even got them. They were coming in. We're like, "What's the name that we want?" And we chose the name before we
that's
ever
pretty
saw them. Really,
smart. You know,
I don't even remember
see,
what their names were to begin with. So it's yeah, you got to remove it early.
gotta
See,
do it before you attach to
yeah,
them, right?
yeah, of some sort. And so, um, what kind of dog is what? I'm sorry, what was it again?
Leroy,
Leroy.
Leroy. Oh, there he goes for his walk. There you go, Leroy. Off you go. He is. Well, we did the DNA test thing
Yeah.
because he's kind of just like a brown dog. And he's like part pit bull, part miniature pincher, part staffy, part like mixed up terrier, and then like a little bit of poodle, which we're like, what? He's like very short haired. I mean, he's like pit bull miniature pincher essentially.
How
Um,
big is he?
he's
Because I think of miniature pinchers as being so tiny.
Yeah, so he's like 35 pounds. He's like a very strange size where in photos he looks very big, but then when he curls up, he's like a little ball.
Oh,
He's like a very weird size. I can't even quite figure it out. Like he's like a in between size in jackets. And I don't know. He's like medium. I don't know. But the crazy thing is that we did the DNA testing and we did like embark where you can find relatives
mm.
and things, right? So we found he has a sister named Phoebe. He's from Georgia, and he has a sister named Phoebe. And then we found out that he had babies with a Yorkshire Terrier. Uh
You know that he got it on.
yeah, with a Yorkshire Terrier. We're like, oh my God, Leroy, ew. And so there are a couple of his children out there, and they're super cute.
Oh,
But it's just like we're like, oh my God, like he's a very sweet dog, but we're like, he has this whole other life that we just never knew. Like he was just like this like y- yeah, this like I don't know. I don't like to picture it. I don't even like to talk about it
a
clearly.
nasty dog.
Yeah, he's a bad boy. Bad boy, bad Leroy Brown.
We I was singing that song the other day in the hallway at school, and I know there were people looking at me going like, "What is this song?" Because they're just age
No,
wise they don't know. But
right.
that's cool. We found one of our dogs has a relative, like a sister or brother, or I forget what it is, but it is not. They don't post any photos, so we don't know what
Aw.
doggy looks like.
What breed are your dogs?
So uh, Mayo is a chug, so it's a Chihuahua pug mix,
Oh, Chuck.
and so she's got what they call an apple head because Chihuahuas have
Oh
either
yeah,
apple or a
pear or
yeah.
apple. Uh-huh.
So she's got a little stubby nose and whatnot. And then the other one is a Chihuahua sort of dachshund
Oh my
lab
God.
mix.
Whoa. Wait, so
Yeah,
what?
I mean it's a very like little bit of lab in there. It's mainly dachshund, so she's sort of long, and she has a zipper nose, um, which is very cute. A little sort of faux hawk that runs up her
Oh
nose.
my
She,
God, that's
she's a
very
loud one.
cute.
We think she's deaf and blind a little bit, or
Oh.
straight the dumbest dog ever,
Oh
and we don't.
my God. I mean, how can you not love a dumb dog?
I mean, she's one of those dogs you can throw a treat at, and she just watches it hit the ground and has no reaction. And it's like I'll put her food in front of her, and the cat will come over and try to eat the food before she does, I have to like say like, Noodle, your food is here. Eat your food. And she just stares off into space.
Oh my
So
God. Adorable.
pretty sure she got dropped on her head or stunted in some
Is
way.
she old
No,
too?
they were both like 1 year old when we got them.
Oh.
So there's something wrong with her, and so she'll bark at random. We thought she was barking at ghosts at first. Because
It
you
could
just
be.
run around. I mean, it's New England, so there's lots of old houses, and you never
Exactly.
know. In fact, there is. Okay, so this is fun fact for people for the night. Our house when we moved in, down in the basement there is a cane. For some reason, it was like the people before us were young, but there was some couple that owned the house before, like that must have been very old, or are ancient at this point. Um, and we found this cane in the rafters in the basement.
Ooh.
And I have
In
yet,
the rafters.
well, not the like the overhead something, whatever you
Okay.
want to call it. Yeah, not like we have this like, oh, we have a 20-foot ceiling in our basement. What are the dormers? I don't know what you call those things. Anyways, and so that cane is still where it is because I'm afraid to touch it because I think it's haunted.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
I think that's
yeah,
wise.
and then underneath the stairs in the basement is this weird concrete block that doesn't make any sense. There's no reason for it that I can figure out. It's not like it's like, and it's capped off in a weird way that makes me go like, it would be a perfect spot to hide a body.
Oh yeah, I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I don't want to. My guess is it's probably like there's a boulder that was there they couldn't move, and so they made a little concrete thing to go around it for that part of the house.
Right.
But then like, why not move the house? Why build it there?
Yeah.
And so there's a body in there somewhere, and then Noodle is hearing that ghost walk around, and that's why she barks.
Yeah. Noodle's just like, you guys.
Yeah.
Come
Pretty
on.
obvious.
Yeah.
Buford, whatever his name is in here the whole time.
I'm the stupid one?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Like I don't even believe in ghosts, but I have to believe there's something weird going on with that weird concrete block.
Yeah,
and I've never ever had anybody be able to explain what it is or why it's there. And
if there's no explanation, then it's
dead person.
Exactly. Obviously.
So I don't know if she sees ghosts, but or she can do that. Like if she could talk, she could say, "I see dead people."
That's what she's barking the whole time.
Yeah. You guys can't see them; they're walking around.
Yeah.
They're no, it's I mean, this is the challenge of like old New England houses. Is they got weird things going on in them.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Are you in a house? Or are you in a? Oh no, you're in New York, so you're probably in an apartment or something, right?
Well, we live by the beach, so we're in this weird. My old apartment was in Brooklyn, and it was like in a very old, like old for New York, I guess, like a 1906 like concrete apartment building. Yeah. And now we're in this weird, like new development that they built for like people to come move to the beach. And it's like these, I guess they're houses. They're like sort of townhouses, but not. They're houses. So it's actually like old. A lot of room.
Yeah.
What's that?
They're not that old then.
No, they're like 12 years old. Yeah. But they're like very poorly built, so there's like no insulation whatsoever. But we're just renting, so we're like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. No ghosts.
No, absolutely none. If I was a ghost, I would not live here because the insulation is so poor.
They don't have the need for heat, right? I don't know. Do ghosts?
Oh, I guess not. I guess you're right.
They're what is it? What's the word? Corporeal? Is that the right word?
Corporeal. I don't know how to pronounce. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how to pronounce Situate, so don't ask me.
They're there watching. They're saying we don't care about the cold, but we do care that that you don't have your vaurnet shirts, and you don't
Yeah.
have, yeah, they're like, we can't wear these cool shirts in your closet and scare you
Yeah.
because you don't have them. You gotta,
Yes. What's the point?
yeah. Now that would, there's gonna be at some point, there's gonna be ghosts in houses, even though I don't believe in them again. But there's gonna be a point where there's gonna be ghosts that are like, well, I saw a ghost in my house and he was walking around on his iPad.
Yeah.
Uh,
His vintage. Yeah. Instead of like chains, yeah, they're just like looking for a plug.
it's just, he had chains, but it was a chain wallet. It was
Yes.
really weird. It was, he was,
All I hear is just like Velcro all night, just ripping open his wallet.
he was, he was singing, All Star
Yeah.
all night long. Like, do you hear Shears I Believe in Love? Or what is that song that just random songs from like the early 2000s
Yeah.
showing up and these ghosts.
Just a lot of, yeah.
Backstreet's back. We have 5 ghosts and they're all Backstreet
And
Boys.
they're all like, can we just, yeah, can we have like the early 1900 ghosts back actually?
I know. I don't mind old time ragtime and stuff. It would be better than this.
Yeah.
Just, I see JC Chavez in the corner. I'm trying to pull. I was like, what's a name from one of those bands? That's the closest I could get.
That's pretty good actually. That was like one of the more lesser known ones. I'm kind of impressed.
I try to stay hip with the kids.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's because that's what we say. That's what, not we, they. That's what they say too,
they say
right? Hip?
that things are hip.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah. They.
I'm pretty sure that's what they
No, my
say.
students, they make fun of me all the time, and like today, I was talking to them about. I was like, well, early days of when people were starting websites and blah blah blah, like when you were little, and I was like, oh wait, no.
They
I
weren't
said,
even
I
born,
know that
right?
most of them are born in like 20. These are seniors, and they were born in 2003, I think,
Oh my God.
or later, depending. And
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, exactly. And so like my reference to like some of the like millennial or not millennial, what's the millennia shift? They have no context for, and it's frightening that
That
it's
is wild. I mean that, yeah. I think about that where I'm like, oh, they weren't even born when 9/11
No,
happened.
no. Most of them know about it and heard stories, but they weren't around. There's one student I have that's a little bit older who does remember some of that, but
Wow.
for the most part, they have no recollection of what happened, or it's fascinating. One of the things that we're hitting, and it's really weird, um, when I mention to people, they don't think about this, but in New England, all the schools, we have this thing that's called a enrollment cliff, which is schools in New England really struggle to get students in this time frame because 18 years ago something happened, which is the .com bubble crash of 2008.
Oh yeah.
And so in that year, a lot of people held off on having kids. And then
Oh.
on top of that, and we're at this point where there's this weird drop off of the amount of college eligible high schoolers
Oh my
that
God, that's
are,
so
yeah.
interesting.
So like there's this weird, and it happened more so in New England than other locations. I mean, it happened across the country, but it hit New England a little harder. And so there's this weird, like 2026 is where it starts to go back the other way. Something you
Whoa.
wouldn't normally think about, of like, oh yeah, that's
I remember that, yeah.
yeah, it's people were like, oh, I'm hesitant to have a kid right now because of
Yeah.
the environment, or because, not the environment, but because of the like financial concern.
Yeah.
And I never would have like predicted that would be a thing, but now that I'm in education, I like, that's the thing
It's
where I'm like, oh yeah,
very real.
yeah. I mean, okay, so let's see, wait, your daughter is 13, so so you add 18 years on that.
Oh my God.
Years. So what is that for 25? So 35. 2042 is their graduation year.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I have such a long way to go. Oh my God, I'm gonna be so old.
2042 before they're 18.
Oh God, what?
I hope that wasn't too real.
It's so, who knows what this world is gonna be like? Well, I don't. She's just gonna be like downloading things into her brain directly by
Yep.
then.
My wife and I always talk about like uh, cool, like downloaded into your eyeballs
Yeah,
situation. That's
exactly.
what the state will be. Is like no more iPads or anything of the sort. It's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, mom, send the photo to my eyes, and then
yeah, it's
that'll,
exactly.
that'll be it. Um, no,
Oh
it's
my
wild. Like I don't even know. My son is what 11, so add another 7 years on top. So yeah, 2032.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Um,
That's really
when
crazy.
what year did you graduate college?
Uh, 2002.
2002. Okay, yeah, so that's about the same. We were the year 2000, uh, and it's one of those things where like looking back, like the type of scares that we had of like Y2K. But
Oh
you
my God,
were still
yeah.
in school at that point. But I remember like, oh, the world's gonna collapse right as I go out and get a job. That's cool.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
uh,
Yeah.
it didn't. For anybody there,
That was
it didn't.
so, remember Conan O'Brien had that whole like skit like in the year
Do
2000.
I?
Oh
My wife
my.
and I dressed up as them as that for Halloween one where
Really?
she was La Bamba and I was Conan,
Oh my
and
God.
we got like we made little dickies with the little balls around the neck, and we had flash
That's so
us.
good.
And now like no one knows what that is. It's so
No.
old that people won't understand it. But
Oh,
at the time,
yeah.
that was we had some good costumes back in the day, and that was a good one that I forgot about because it was really simple.
Yeah.
It didn't require a lot.
That's so,
Um,
that's
I've
brilliant.
said on here one of my favorite ones that we did. Oh yeah, my wife said, yeah, that was such a fun costume. One of my some people may know this that have been on here and heard this before, but um, there was a year where we dressed up as. Do you know what harikari is?
Yeah.
Where someone like puts a knife in themselves
Yeah.
and cuts out their guts and whatnot as a like self-inflicted
Yeah.
suicide or whatever. Dark. But then there's also the sportscaster Harry Carey. And so I went as Harry Carey committing harikari, or as some people say Harry Carey. And my wife went as Carrie from the movie with a
Oh my
mustache.
God.
So she
Oh
was
my
Harry
God.
Carey committing Harry Carey, and we had like swords that were sticking out of our guts and like blood
That's
running down. And it's
amazing.
like, what a dumb, crazy concept. But it's
That's brilliant.
those are the fun ones. Our son one year, a couple years ago, wanted to go as the Grim Reaper, and I joked to my wife, it'd be funny if because he didn't want us to go as like he didn't want to go as uh, like as a family unit of
Mm.
things, and so I said to my wife, it'd be funny if I went as the Gym Reaper, and she went as the Swim Reaper, and so she had a pool noodle scythe, and uh, so we had the makeup on, and then I had a giant like muscle thing, and I made a shirt that a sweatshirt that says Grimm's Gym on it, and so we walked around and did all the stuff with that. But like, those are the fun, crazy
Oh my
things.
God, that's amazing. I feel like my husband's birthday, he's a Halloween baby. So we never really get to like, we never really do Halloween because I feel like he's like, oh, I never get a birthday growing up because we only ever did like Halloween parties. So we try to like always do birthday. But now we have a kid. We're like, well, we're gonna start doing Halloween.
Yeah, you
So we
got the best opportunity
have to.
because you can just dress up your kid as whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Now's the time.
The thing,
We don't have that many years left.
yeah, before I want to be, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like, I don't even have a good context for what would be what's that, Elsa, or
Oh my
like
God, no.
those,
Yeah.
um, we one of the things that we learned early on, and this is a tip for anybody that's out there, uh, when Charlie was really little, we made all the costumes out of sweatsuits. So like one
Ooh.
year we went as Winnie the Pooh. So I got a giant yellow sweatsuit top and bottom, and a red shirt, and
Oh,
sewed ears
so
on
easy.
it. So when we went out, we were nice and warm and cozy.
That's so
And he
smart.
went as Piglet, so it was like a little pink sweatsuit
Oh my
striped shirt
God.
on top and a little pig nose that I made for him out of felt.
Oh my
We were
God. Brilliant.
the next year, and so I made little, like, we got gray things, and I made felt little tails, and so like you didn't have to do as much,
That's
like, for
brilliant. Because
the
I'm
cold,
definitely
yeah,
lazy.
for the cold weather. It was very
Oh,
nice to have
yeah.
something that was actually like a sweatsuit that you could wear.
I'm into that. I'm going to take that tip. That's a
It
good
is,
tip.
and so yeah, it was sort of just, you have to hunt down a sweatsuit that's the right color, but like totally easy and nice and manageable as a costume for a little one.
I love it.
It's not awkward and uncomfortable. Now we're at that point where he wants to be the Grim Reaper, and he wants to be the, like, some death thing.
Yeah.
Not as fun anymore. My wife has already after Halloween, bought the costumes for our dogs. Like,
Oh my
later.
God. I mean, that's the best time.
Yeah. So they're going as Hall and Oates next year.
Oh,
And so
that's great.
we're making a little keyboard stand and all
Oh
that.
my
So
God.
I don't remember, what were they this year. If my wife is listening, they won the costume contest at the they were Ghostbusters, and so one of them was
Oh,
Slimer
cute.
and one was a Ghostbuster. But that's the advantage of having two dogs, is you can pair them up.
Yeah,
Give
that's good.
them
See,
silly.
that's why I need to get another dog.
Yes, I advocate for more
Yeah,
dogs. And right, I
absolutely.
want to get.
That's what I'm gonna shoot for.
Does your dog sleep in the bed?
Oh yeah. Do yours?
Oh yes. I didn't think they would be able to jump up at first, but they do definitely sleep in the bed.
Make it happen if they really want. And any. What about your cat? Does your cat?
They will sometimes join in the bed, but the
Cats?
dogs took over the bed.
Yeah.
Like, we used to have a big 60, 70-pound dog, and we didn't let her up in the bed because the cats wouldn't be up there then. But when we got the little ones, I mean, one of the dogs is 14 pounds,
Oh yeah.
and the
Yeah.
other
So there's
one's
plenty of
like
space.
20 pounds. So it's not like they're huge to begin with. So we can fit all the pets on the bed in one shot, and not
Yeah.
an issue of any sort.
Yeah, my husband was not a dog person. He was a cat person. And when we first got we and I had my old dog Feta, who was like 60 pounds, and he was old, and it was like, no, he will not be coming on the bed, which was fine because he kind of like he was so old that he would like poop himself. And that, yeah, poor guy. And the cat would sleep in bed, and then we got Leroy, and my husband was like, no dogs in bed. And then of course, like now they
Yeah.
sleep together every night.
Here's
Snuggle, snuggle,
my
snuggle.
first thought in that is, that's the opportunity for your husband to poop in the bed and blame it on the
Yeah,
dog. But
that's true.
plan ahead. Set
Yeah,
yourself up
wasted
for.
opportunity, if not really.
Why would you let that
I mean,
slide?
now I'm gonna take advantage. Now it's my turn to poop in the.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dump City.
guess what?
Uh,
What I'll be doing tonight?
well, you're not supposed to announce it because now we'll know.
Before the YouTube goes up. Yeah. So tonight, I have tonight, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your husband watching this at all?
I don't know, actually. I doubt it. Let me see. Oh, it is 11 though, so I am gonna scoot off.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he's not
Oh yeah.
watching. Ha
Uh, yeah. I'm just like, yeah. So you really you can lay one right there in the bed.
Yeah.
He won't know it's coming,
Well,
and you can
I don't even know.
very easily say this is Leroy's fault.
But
Or
Leroy's looking at me as if oh, buddy. Hold on. I'm gonna take the tape off so I can show you Leroy.
oh, I want to see Leroy.
Leroy, look up. He's looking at me like, why? Leroy,
Let's see. Oh,
showing up.
that's very. Oh, sweetie.
But he's just such a strange size.
Yeah. I don't really see the. You said pit bull?
Yeah, you can't see it now. He has
Yeah.
like a big chest. He's got like the big pit bull chest. and the pit bull jaw, but you can't really tell right
Oh.
now.
I
Anyway.
I have realized since we got our dogs, like these little dogs, that I'm very much a dog person. I like cats and all, but I would, if I had to choose, I'm going dog without question at this
Same.
point.
Yeah, I am both, but
Yeah.
definitely dog through and through.
I mean, don't tell my cats, but they probably wouldn't
I'm
care.
gonna I'm gonna text them right now.
Yeah. Well,
And they're gonna poop in your
yeah, you
bed.
don't have their phone number, so there. They,
This was so much
here,
fun.
I'll do this. I will tilt down and go back to face here for a second. There we go.
Okay.
You don't have
Let me,
to, but
no,
I
I will.
we've been talking. I've been making. I haven't even looked at the cam. I mean, I know that you were making creatures and
Oh
whatnot.
wait, yeah, here, let me.
I was gonna say I have to go back and watch you make this whole thing. In the end, I love the yellow guy. He's that and the well, both the yellow guys. The one that's in the background and the one that's up front. The one up front looks like they like broke out in hives and they're scared.
Yeah.
All the
Just
bumps.
I don't know.
Yeah, he looks worried.
They
I'm
all look a little. They're all just kind of like, "What are we doing here? I don't
a
know."
little suspicious, but this has been a pleasure. My wife, even before we started tonight, she's been saying like, "I bet you Ruth and you are going to get along so well," and I really feel like this has been a lot
That
of
was
fun
so
and a lot
fun.
of giggles, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the time chatting with you.
Yeah, it was so fun to trash talk children.
Um, you're close to this? Are you going into any of the like Society of Illustrator things in New York?
Yes.
Like they have the award shows coming up. I was just thinking like there is a chance that not that you have to work around this of any sort, but there's a chance that we might come down in March for a for one of the
Let me
awards. I was gonna say
know.
there's so many people in New York that I feel like I want to get together with people for one night and be like, let's all get together and have drinks
Just
or
yeah,
something. It'd be
we
fun.
should
So
do it.
I'm not a big city person, so it would be scary to me to go into New York, but I kind of have to probably in this instance. I'm not I don't like cities. Uh, so
Fair enough. Well, if you want help coordinating, I'm happy to help.
yeah, no, there's quite a people. I mean, you're down in the heart of it, and there's so many people that are there that it'd be fun to have at some point have a little get together with folks and
That would be
um,
fun.
so. But anyways, this has been a pleasure. I have thoroughly
It's been
enjoyed my
so fun.
evening,
No,
and
this was
so
great. It really was actually exactly what I needed. So
okay,
thank
good,
you.
good.
This was
And at some point, what I might suggest at some point, I don't know if you'd be up for it, but we need to do it again. We do. Have you watched any of the Game and Doodles? We do.
yes.
Okay. Are you up for a Game and Doodle one night?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We'll put you
Absolutely.
we'll put you in the queue of someone to throw in there because they can be weird, and then you get to see my wife try to interact
Oh
with
my
us
God.
on. And you did you watch the last one where like we sent my son's drawings and gave
No.
stuff?
No, I didn't
Oh
see that one.
yeah, no, he got to participate even though he's asleep. He got to participate. So,
Oh
um,
my.
yes, we will. I think that we need to do those like every quarter at least of some sort, and so we'll do one coming up, maybe late
That's
spring or something
amazing.
like that. We'll put one together and we'll have you on. So,
Yay.
go. This is the send off. Go poop in the bed, and I will be in touch.
Sounds good. Yeah, I will report accordingly.
Oh,
All
also,
right.
if you post this, tag me, and I will do the same.
Okay.
Because I would love to see the final version pop up in my feed immediately. So, anyways, yes,
All right.
go turn it up, and I will be.
All right. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. I hope everybody watching enjoyed the show with Ruth. Ruth is amazing. Obviously, many books, and I have a bunch here, but the one that I've been touting that I think is just an amazing book is this Uprooted graphic novel about their childhood moving from Canada to Hong Kong and the experiences of that move and the challenges of that move and sort of the somewhat culture shock that goes along with that. But it was a very, very, very good read, and I suggest people go out and pick that up. And it was a I said this before, it's a quick read, but a quick read in a very good way. It's not quick read because it's too simple or too easy or anything of the sort, but it was a lovely experience reading that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up this piece. I only have a little bit more to do, but you can see how big we're talking on it. But I have some stuff that I have to sort of tweak to it. But I actually moved really fast on this one and got this one sort of squared up. So let me switch back down to my downshoot, and we can take a look at what is there. And I will show you the sketch as well for anybody that wants to see how this whole thing started. So for those of you that tuned in later, this is the sketch that I started with, which is basically a little kid playing with their hamster in a car, making a little raceway thing. So what I have to do yet is I want to see if I can fit in a little hamster wheel in here or something that indicates the hamster a little bit. And I want to put a little checkered flag in here of some sort. And so I was thinking about maybe down in this region, there's just a little checkered flag that's like sort of, sitting on the ground, maybe a little hamster ball or something that's over here. That sort of implies that the hamster was there of some sort. And it's a question of, can I get something that's maybe a little bit see-through? I don't even know if this is see-through enough that can act as that little like hamster ball that's back here in the corner. It's got to be enough that it stands out on top of the background there. So I'll have to figure out sort of color-wise how that one operates, but I will get something to this sort. I can't do pink because that's not going to work. I might be able to do this yellow, this brighter yellow. You can see what that looks like here. A little choppy chop. See how it comes out. But what I'm going to say is, now that Ruth is has departed for the evening, things switch to, if there's questions that you want to ask me about career or about your making process or anything of that sort, I am here to answer accordingly, and I will try to help out where I can. I may not have every answer. I may not be perfect at it, but let me help you where available. So try to figure out like how big that flag needs to be. It doesn't need to be super big, but something like this size is probably pretty good. I want to get a little bit wavy, and so I'm gonna do the checkered pattern on it. I might do the checkered pattern in a different color than black and white, so it doesn't stand out too much. But I had a hamster when I was a kid named Colonel Mustard. Nice, that's a good name. I had an instance once where we got a hamster and they said it was a boy, and then like 2 weeks later it had a bunch of little baby hamsters, and then we had to give them away. And one of the baby hamsters we hadn't given away yet, and it crawled out of the tank I call it a tank, but whatever that's called, and crawled over to our sump pump and fell into the sump pump and drowned. There's a fun story for everybody. And then I had another one that we have this, like, I know this is not the terminology, but it was at the time was billed as a hobo shoe. And so it was like meant to look like it had holes in it and whatnot that was in the hamster cage. And my hamster was too big and fat and got stuck in it and ended up passing away while we were on like vacation or something of the sort. That was what was told to us. Maybe it was whoever was babysitting our pets didn't feed said hamster, but and so I have this vivid memory of that. It was like an orangey plastic shoe that was in the cage, and I just imagined that hamster being stuck in it. So there's that fun memory for everybody. Why are my memories about death when it comes to hamsters? I didn't even like holding the hamster. That's weird. Like, I think that's the point of having a cute little furry pet, is you like take it out and hold it. But not me. I just sort of had them in a cage and called it a day. I might have to, in Photoshop, try to correct for this. I don't know if people can see that, but there's a color shift between the rest of the face and this seam That sort of happens here because of the legs behind. Although that's doing a pretty good job of sort of diminishing it. I might have to adjust for that. Okay, let's make this checkered. I mean, do we think black? I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of black there. What I might do is I might go and grab like a strip like this. This may be crazy to do. I don't know if this will work. So it's not pure black, and make little checkered pieces out of this and glue it down to the white so they sort of line up. And so it is dark in tone, but it's not perfectly dark. And make a little checkered pattern out of this and may call it that. And then glue them down and make it look pretty. But so he can have a little checkered flag for his hamster. Did anybody out there have any weird pets? I had water frogs for a little bit when I was little. And I never wanted to touch them. I never wanted to touch the food that they had. I was creeped out by them. But they were cool to look at. And they were sort of frogs that just sort of lived under the water all the time. I don't know why I thought they were a good pet or why I had them. I mean, I was like, I'm going to guess 8 maybe at the time. But it was not a good pet for me because I didn't really care for them. They were not a pet of choice after I got them. I think I got them as, I don't even know why I got them. But what kind of pets do people have when they were little? Offer it up. What you have? What'd you have? Who had the weirdest pet? Anybody have a monkey? I wish someone had a monkey. I don't know if anybody had a monkey. I just realized I may want to make that like brighter white so it really pops down there. I think I need to do that. That is a dark brush. I'm trying to find the brush that I used with the white before. That won't work. Sea monkeys. Okay. Yep. I remember having sea monkeys for a little bit, and then I think they died pretty quickly thereafter. You can still get sea monkeys, I think. And they don't look anything like they do on the packaging. It's a big scam. They are, what is it, brine shrimp? Yeah, that's weird. You get them through the mail, you get like dried brine shrimp, and they just come back to life in water. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, everybody. I didn't mean to sneeze on you. This one's going to be all sticky. I'm going to do a new one. And I'm going to get some more white paint out here. We'll make another flag here. Let's see. Here we go. Regular pets are the best kind of pets because they're normal. They don't require weird mail order pets. Although that being said, we did adopt our dogs from afar, so I guess technically they're mail order pets. So let's ignore my statement just for a minute. We'll ignore it. An ant farm. Ant farms. Was the ant farm, Brad? Was the ant farm a sand ant farm, or was it one of those weird like blue gel ones that they have now? So I don't like those blue gel ones. That seems like it's like artificial. I mean, obviously it is, but I don't like those. I find those problematic. Did you have an alien ant farm that used to sing a song? Will they do, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? You've been struck by a smooth criminal? Did they sing that in your ant farm? Sand, yeah, sand, old school, yes. I like it. All those newfangled blue ant things. I don't even know what that blue stuff is. I know it's like gel of some sort, but it just seems fake. Extra fake. I want to believe these ants really live on a farm, and so it needs to be sand. Give me a second. I'm gonna scoop these guys up and put them over here for now, and then I'm gonna dry this with a hair dryer. I'm moving over there so I don't lose them in the process. But give me a second. I'm gonna dry this. Okay, let's see. That might be enough. Now I'm gonna put some glue across it and start sticking down those checkerboard. So let's see. Put some glue across it like so, and then I can come back in and just start putting these on. Let's see. They don't have to be perfect. They just gotta have a checkerboard-like setup. Let's grab another one. What other fun questions can I ask? Who? I'm trying to think of other pet questions. Does anybody have a crazy amount of pets? Like hundreds of pets? I mean, more like, 10 pets. There's people that have like crazy amounts of dogs, and I'm very jealous, but at the same time, I also know that's probably an absolute pain. Eventually, we had dogs, but I guess those were my starter pets. Yeah, I feel like as a little kid, hamsters and that kind of stuff are like a good starter pet if they, if you're not real sure that your kid is going to have a vested interest. It doesn't take that much to raise a hamster. I mean, obviously it takes something, but it's not as heavy a lift as like a snake. Actually, snakes are probably pretty easy. You just feed them like once a month. Give them a little mouse and call it a day. Let's see. Let's get these guys in here. Trying to checkerboard. Gonna make a checkerboard. Bibbidi bop, bibbidi boop. Checkerboard. I'm trying to get them so they sort of line up in a reasonable manner, and they're not completely the wrong size throughout. It's also very sticky. Sticky. Let's see. I think that's the last one. I'll put this one right about here. Now what I'll do is pack them down. I'm going to use, what can I use that would be not super sticky and roll along this to get them really stuck down. I have glue all over this. Here, I can use this one. This one will be good because this one doesn't have glue across the top of it. And sort of press these down. I don't even mind if it has glue. I just need it to dry. So I'm gonna hit it with the hairdryer again. Okay, let's see. Less sticky. Lauren, I just saw your note. Thank you for doing all that, Lauren. I know it was not the night that you wanted to have going out and doing that, but it will mean that the youngin' in the house will feel much better, hopefully, in a short amount of time. Make this a little bit smaller here. I mean, it is kind of a big checkered flag, but maybe I'll like that. I'm trying to figure out where I want to put it. Over here, is that too much? Trying to figure out if there's like a spot where it would make sense to. I mean, I could make it even smaller. Let's make it even smaller. There we go. And I do like it sort of down in this range. Maybe like this, and then I can have a little line that sort of shows the. That's probably pretty good right there. I'm really not using that much of it, but it's okay. Okay. I don't think there's going to be. Wait, which side am I using? Oh, I'm using that side. Okay, so yeah, let me glue the back of this, and then we'll set it down here like so. So we get that little bit of checkered pattern. Right there. I'm going to trim off the excess because I don't want to get stuck to things and causing problems. There we go, like that. And then what I'll do is I'll take this little black Posca marker. So I'm trying to, this may be like a little hamster ball or a hamster wheel up here. I don't know if I even need it. I can try something else, but let's see. I can also try a little version that's brighter white where I've painted it here. Let's see if that works. Maybe that works a little better. Just a little subtle. I feel like it needs to be darker back behind here though if I'm going to do that. But that idea of like a little something there. I don't know if it 100% needs it, but we'll see. We will see. Okay, so now here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to draw just a little line. It goes up from this. Underneath the finger there. I'm going to purposely misalign it. Like that. Call it like that. There we go. Okay. Now, do we want to put in a hamster ball in here of any sort? I mean, if I put it in here is probably the better spot, not up there. Because, and the reason why, oh, you can't even see what I'm saying. Not up here because it's so close to the white there that if I put it anywhere, it'd probably be good to keep it sort of on this section of the right. I just don't know if people will notice it or like that it even matters all that much. I mean, the other option is, I'm like trying to think, like if I put yellow up there, I could make a yellow hamster ball, which is actually very funny because I don't know if anybody ever had a hamster ball that they would roll around in, but 99.9% of the time that we put our hamsters in one of those, they would just pee, just immediately pee in it. And so having it yellow is kind of funny. So maybe like that right there. I don't want it to line up with the shoe perfectly, but you know, maybe I could cut it a little bit smaller yet and see if I can get it so it doesn't line up with the shoe as much. So like this, that's probably better. Okay, that works. I can get away with that. Okay, so Lone Star. Let's get that in here so it's, where did I have it before? It was like up here. There we go. Glue that down. What I will probably do is draw the little seams on it with something that is in that sort of yellow range. Let me let it dry for a second. And I'll do that. Some little bits of yellow there. Up in this hair. Some other colors. What's my cat doing? Okay. Oh, I see one other thing I want to touch, which is this guy needs to come all the way down and touch the black so it feels connected. There we go. Okay. So now that's dry just a touch. It's a question of, will this color work, or do I need to upgrade to the next? Maybe I need to upgrade color-wise to something like this. It doesn't need much. It just needs like that. A little seam indicators. Little subtle things. They're in there. There's a little pea hamster ball. Okay. Last. Ugh, this pencil's all glued now. My desk is a mess. A mess. So I'm going to keep out a couple of the colors that I want to use. Bip, bop, bibbity boop. Bip, bip, boppity boop. Everything else can go away, and I'll start to clean up this space and get it ready so I can share what it looks like in the end in a nice manner. I'll put some of these paints away. So everybody knows, here's the palette for the night. Anybody that stayed this long, we got turquoise blue, we got leaf green, we got olive, we have luminous lemon, we have deep magenta, we have opera, and we have pale lilac. Just so you know, this orange that's back here from everybody, I don't know if people see that orange. That orange is actually something like the deep magenta or this pale lilac mixed with a tiny bit of olive or leaf green. That those sort of purpley colors mixed with these sort of greenish colors actually give, because of the saturation and whatnot, actually give that sort of palette. So anyways, let's clean up a little bit more here before I go put these finishing details on. So what I want to do is, I really love these. I've been loving these sort of olive, and what is this color called? This is khaki green. I've been loving these colors recently and how they work on some of these pieces. And so you'll notice if you go look at like the stuff I've been doing recently, there's a lot of greens and pinks and purples and oranges have been showing up over and over. And part of that is just, I love those colors recently. But I'm gonna go put in some little touches of this kind of stuff. I might in Photoshop go and touch over that little bit of shoe that shows up. I don't know. I kind of like it. I kind of don't. The face, I like the separation there, but the rest of it, I'm not as keen on. I wonder if I have. Where was that one? Oh, this purple here. By using this. This is a pastel pencil. So by using this and sort of softening that up, I may make that a little less noticeable. That's a little better. I also noticed I want to add just a touch of shadow back behind this car here, just to imply that it's sort of sitting in the hand there. Use this little bit of pink. There, so I'm just sort of combining colors on the surface. I'm not a huge fan of this little chunk of this fluorescent neon pink that's showing up there. And so what I might do is soften a little bit with some, what color is this? This is Caran d'Ache Um, salmon. No, is that what it is? Yeah, salmon. And now when I go over it with this one, I shouldn't end up with those little hot spots as much. Okay. I might come in here and put, again, a little bit more pink up on the nose, and actually maybe a little bit more orange. And one of the reasons why I might hit the orange a little more is I'm trying to bounce the eye to these different orange things. So this looks a little bit like a cone, the orange in the background, plus the orange of the car, so your eye kind of pops to those in particular. I'm trying to sort of hit those as hot spots. Okay, I think I am actually at a good stopping point. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put those glues to the side. I'm going to put my markers off to the side. I'm going to put this pastel pencil in there. I'm going to get those off to the side. Get that off to the side. I will clean up all this mess tomorrow. But I'm going to put up a lovely little black surface so you can see what it looks like sort of on a nice clean surface. And I will zoom in for you. Try to get rid of some of the excess that's in the background. Whoa, 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 whoa. Here we go. I wish it didn't bow as much as it does right in front of this, so it looks like it's all warped. But it is actually square. If I push it down, you can get it close to square. But that is my boy playing with a hamster in a car, racing a hamster in a car piece for the evening. I hope everybody enjoyed the evening. Again, go back and watch part 1 if you have not seen it already. And tune in to Ruth Chan's Instagram, which is OHTRUTH, O Truth. I assume that that's what it's hinting at. I don't know. But I didn't ask that question tonight. Otherwise, next week we have on a former student of mine, someone named Madison Safer, who I don't even know what year graduate. I have to go back and look. My guess is around 2017, 2018, somewhere in that range, who is also a Kidlit person now and has a couple of books and is at the same agency as me. Anyways, tune in next week for Madison. Go check out Ruth's work. I had a wonderful evening. I will see you next week. Bye.